Deltek's culture is great. We're very collaborative.
It constantly challenges me.
It gives me the flexibility to work remotely.
It's the work-life balance that they really promote in the company, and they really love that.
I love the people.
I love the approachability of all the directors.
I certainly love the products. I feel like they're world-class solutions that we can offer.
Deltek is the leading provider of software and information solutions to project-based businesses globally. Deltek is the best at what we do, and our team and our people are the reason why.
Collaboration is important at Deltek for a number of reasons. It's one of our core values. It's also probably the main thread that runs through our entire culture.
There is a culture of folks wanting to improve and wanting to grow and wanting to work together.
I'm working with a lot of people coming from everywhere in the world.
It's something we look at as a competitive advantage. It's something that we need to have as a company to grow and to prosper and be productive.
It's all about having fun and having fun while working together.
You can take part in a number of different company-sponsored sports programs, exercise programs, philanthropies.
It's really great to work for a company like Deltek that gives its employees the opportunity to give back, whether it be through charitable giving or through giving of our own time.
Deltek plans some great charity events, and we support a number of great organizations.
The advantages I experience from having a flexible work environment is that I get to spend time with my children.
I think the one real key advantage for Deltek in allowing flexible work environments is the ability to retain a lot of their key talent longer than other companies can.
Our success with our employees is centered around the fact that we're all in it together.
We're all in the same boat. We know where we're rowing, and we just need to get it done.
We're a global business, we have a diverse set of customers, and so there's any number of different opportunities that we offer to our team. That engaging culture and the variety of opportunities make Deltek a really interesting place to be. I mean, at the end of the day, if an employee feels that Deltek has invested in them, they will invest their creativity and enthusiasm into Deltek.
Deltek's culture is great. We're very collaborative.
It constantly challenges me.
It gives me the flexibility to work remotely.
It's the work-life balance that they really promote in the company, and they really love that.
I love the people.
I love the approachability of all the directors.
I certainly love the products. I feel like they're world-class solutions that we can offer.
Deltek is the leading provider of software and information solutions to project-based businesses globally. Deltek is the best at what we do, and our team and our people are the reason why.
Collaboration is important at Deltek for a number of reasons. It's one of our core values. It's also probably the main thread that runs through our entire culture.
There is a culture of folks wanting to improve and wanting to grow and wanting to work together.
I'm working with a lot of people coming from everywhere in the world.
It's something we look at as a competitive advantage. It's something that we need to have as a company to grow and to prosper and be productive.
It's all about having fun and having fun while working together.
You can take part in a number of different company-sponsored sports programs, exercise programs, philanthropies.
It's really great to work for a company like Deltek that gives its employees the opportunity to give back, whether it be through charitable giving or through giving of our own time.
Deltek plans some great charity events, and we support a number of great organizations.
The advantages I experience from having a flexible work environment is that I get to spend time with my children.
I think the one real key advantage for Deltek in allowing flexible work environments is the ability to retain a lot of their key talent longer than other companies can.
Our success with our employees is centered around the fact that we're all in it together.
We're all in the same boat. We know where we're rowing, and we just need to get it done.
We're a global business, we have a diverse set of customers, and so there's any number of different opportunities that we offer to our team. That engaging culture and the variety of opportunities make Deltek a really interesting place to be. I mean, at the end of the day, if an employee feels that Deltek has invested in them, they will invest their creativity and enthusiasm into Deltek.
Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Yeah, welcome to our July 2021 meetup. No, so our meetup theme is about serverless and containers. So with us tonight, no, we will be joined by 3 big-time speakers working with multiple production workloads in containers and serverless. And this talk is also sponsored by Deltek. So stay tuned. No, we will have lots of prizes, no, sponsored by Deltek later on. So yeah. So let me share my screen. So we have a bit of some announcements, and then afterwards we will transition into the talk proper. So yeah. Okay. Okay. Share my screen. All right. So to wide yung ano. Okay. So yeah, let's present. So yeah, welcome to the monthly meetup number 7 on serverless and containers. So yeah, thank you very much for our sponsors. So yeah, first of all, we have a raffle. We have a raffle every after the talk and at the end of the talk. So don't forget to join. Don't forget to register. So register by scanning this QR code. So I suggest you register now. Take a picture of this while I'm talking, and then I'll show this to you at the end of the slides as well. So register. So you'll have a chance and opportunity to win freebies. So medyo madaming freebies, guys, around 20. So hindi around, exactly 20. So ang taas na, we have 89-90 people here. So that's like a 1/5 chance. So actually ito yung talk na pinakamalaking chance that you'll win a freebie. So I suggest na you scan it and you register. So by the end of this talk, by the end of the first speaker, we'll have this ready. We will have the raffle ready. Sorry, yung nanay ko lang. Yeah, medyo dumaan lang siya. Yeah. Yeah, so ito yung natin, yung mechanics, no. So you follow the Happy at Deltech page, no. So join the Facebook group then, and I think most of you are in this group naman. Then I think this is another aside from the raffle, no. So you follow the Deltech page, join the user group page, and then post takeaways, no, from the virtual meetup, no, maybe screenshot, maybe what you learned, no. So post that no later than Monday, July 26, and then use the hashtag Team Deltech and hashtag AWSUG.PH, and make sure na public yung post, no, so we can see it and everyone can see it, and we can share it to everyone we know, no. And then from all of those posts, no, we'll have 4 raffle winners who will win a member Gillian hoodie jacket, no. So medyo mag-okay yung jacket na yan, no? Kita nyo yun sa picture, no, may AWS pa, no. So we'll be able to raffle that out, no. So don't forget to post, no. Magte-take na ako na screen. Don't forget to post, and yeah, like and subscribe. Okay. So sorry. Yeah, so yeah, elevate your career in cloud at Deltech, no. So scan the QR code then to see the opportunities available to you. And then if you have any questions, no, you want to learn more about the opportunities or asking for a friend, no, send an email to makaticareers@deltech.com. So yeah, so as usual, no, every talk, no, we congratulate everyone that's newly AWS certified, no. And actually, this talk is extra special kasi we would be raffling a hoodie to 2 lucky people na nag-certify this month, no. So it's sponsored again by Deltech. So thank you, Deltech, so much for that. So yeah, here are the roster ng mga nag-certify this month, no. So for cloud practitioner, we have Teresa Jimenez, Rex Onco, Angelica Alcantara, Christian Kabungkal, Harris Mariano, Marvin Gregorio, Mios Ilagan, Patricia Diguangco. Sorry if I misspelled that. Sa SysOps administrator, we have Joel Midoy. And for data analytics specialty, we have Kyle Escocia. No, so si Kyle actually is also a member of the AWS Community ASEAN na blog. No, so I'll talk more about that later in this introduction. He posted an article on how he passed the AWS Data Analytics Specialty exam. No, so that's something that you can also check out if you're interested in the certification. He shared his tips, yung topics, and all that. And for database specialty, yun, Nerida. Yeah, so yun yung mga roster, no? So if you heard your name, there's a 2 in 10 chance that you'll win a freebie care of Deltech, no? So thank you so much, Deltech, for that. Yep, so next is yung call for AWS speakers and volunteers. So as always, we're open and willing to get people who are willing to volunteer as AWS speakers or volunteers. No, so we're always open to that. So if you have some time and you can commit to helping out the community, inspiring others, share, empower, create, just let us know. Message me, Chard, or si Sir Rafi, and then we'll include you in the loop then. No? So yeah, another is AWS User Group PH Women. So I think Sir Rafi, if you can introduce us to the org as well.
Right. So there's just a call for women volunteers and leaders, not just look out for the Facebook group, AWS User Group PH Women as well, a dedicated safe space and inclusive space, especially for women.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sir Rafi. So yeah, encouraging all women talaga to volunteer, no. So AWS UG PH Women. Thank you for that, Sir Rafi. So yeah, another is the free certification study group, no. So if you wanna be certified in AWS, there's a study group waiting for you, no. So you just registered, you just watch out in the Facebook group, no, for announcement and for details, no. So I think for this we have practitioner and solutions architect every week, and then you'll be able to learn more about AWS. So nakita nyo naman, there's a lot of newly certified now, especially sa Cloud Prac. No? So most of them went through this tutor group, and most of them got their certification. So this is a very effective way to study. And also, you can get AWS certifications for free, no? Associate, professional, and the specialty. No? So I think there's a Facebook page, a Facebook post announcing this. No? So check that out for more details, no? So there's nothing better than having free certification vouchers, and also yung syempre yung freebies natin. So yeah, check that out, and if you're interested, register kayo. Also, we have the AWSUG store merch, no? So AWS certified swags at store.awsug.ph. So there's caps, there's pillows, there's hoodies, there's you can show that to everyone, to your friends. Maganda rin tong gift item, so check that out, no? store.awsug.ph. So another thing is the AWS Community Blog, no? So this is something that we've started, AWS ASEAN. So this is a space where everyone can share their thoughts, their ideas, no? So if you want to contribute more to the community, but you're medyo takot pa kayo to share dun sa to share it as a speaker, this is a good way to beta test yung idea nyo, no? So a good way, no? Construct your idea, create a post, and we'll help you out with the content as well. No? Tapos if you feel more confident enough, volunteer kayo guys to talk, no? To talk and contribute to the community, no? Very willing kami, and always looking for speakers and volunteers to help out the community. Then again, I think this at the last opportunity to see this QR code, no? So there's also a link in the chat, no? So register kayo guys for the freebies. Again, ang taas ng odds that you'll win a freebie, 1 in 5 or 1 in 6. So scan this QR code and register. Yeah, right. So yeah, yun yung mechanics na we mentioned earlier. And then yeah, I think yung isang na miss out ko is yung scanning the QR code and completing the event feedback survey until Monday, July 26th. No? So you'll be able to have you'll also win a raffle, no? Pero hindi na siya i-draw during this event, no? Pero hopefully you get to fill that form up, no? A way for us to improve our events over time, no? So yeah, yun yung introduction slide, no? So medyo maulan lang dito guys, so I apologize if medyo yung signal, and I hope everyone's safe, no? Everyone's safe and dry. So yeah, the next section, and also we'll introduce our sponsors, so we'll give them some airtime, no? So Deltek is a leading global provider of enterprise software and information solutions for professional services, management, and IT consulting, no? And architecture, engineering, marketing, and advertising agencies, government contractors, and other project-based businesses. So for introducing Deltek, we have with us Miss Evelyn Perez. Miss Evelyn.
All right, thank you, Jambi. Can you guys hear me clear?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you. Cold evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's talk. Let me start by saying a few words about a company that has been in the industry for almost 40 years and operating in the Philippines since 1999. Recognized year over year by Nucleus, G2, and Capterra as a project-based ERT solutions leaders, as well as ranked the 12 on the top workplaces in the DC metro area by Washington Post, and has been recognized as the best place to work in the Philippines for 8 consecutive years. That is Deltek. So I'd like to welcome all to Deltek Devops. Our team of DevOps engineers manages build and deployment, automation work, and support. Release engineers ensures that we package and release quality installers and provide excellent customer experience. Team of database administrators are in charge of database development and management, so as performance and tuning on top of the day-to-day support provided to the team. We do build and deployment monitoring, internal and customer support. We do create and manage databases, automation work. We package, test, and release installers. We build and upgrade environments. And most importantly, the team ensures that environment and databases are stable. All of this over Git, Jenkins, Ansible, Terraform, Docker, Oracle, SQL, PowerShell, to name a few. Shown in the screen is our Scrum status that is set over a weekly sprint. We do Ansible project to improve customer service by efficiently setting up the infrastructure and updating the build and deployment processes. We do aim to produce an artifact that is compatible to multiple and different environments. One of the products is now running in Docker, as well as the effort to containerize the reporting environment is in our roadmap. Moreover, we use Terraform to manage our serverless infrastructure, as well as we create new pipelines and update existing PowerShell scripts as we support more versions of different products. Additionally, the team is focused in continuous process improvement, where projects are efficiently crafted to take the service a few notch higher. Furthermore, we welcome fresh ideas, skill set, experienced talents, as well as SMEs in this field, someone who will contribute in taking the team to the next level. This is Erlyn speaking on behalf of the Deltek DevOps Management. Thank you, and I'll now turn you over to Jambi to introduce one of my team leads, Carlo, as he walks us through DevOps and Coordinate.
Hi, thank you for that, Ms. Erlyn. So yeah, introducing yung next speaker, no? So si Sir Carlo Ledesma has 11 years in the IT industry. He has started his career as a software developer in 2010 and moved to build a build and release role in 2014 when he started his experience in handling cloud providers. He pioneered and managed the DevOps team of a fintech company before joining Deltek in 2020 as one of their DevOps engineers. He used to be an active speaker and coach for code camps and seminars in IT communities. So everyone, let's give Sir Carlo Ledesma a round of applause. Yes, virtual. So yeah, Sir Carlo, take it away.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes, Carlo, loud and clear.
Yep, thank you very much. And apologies because I have cough right now, but I'm trying remedy using lozenges. So I'm going to discuss Fargate under control, serverless and DevOps, but it's more of a DevOps and serverless talk actually. So first, let's have a definition of terms first. What is serverless? Serverless is a model in which application code is executed on demand in response to triggers that application developers configure ahead of time. So we're going to have a Q&A later. I can answer questions if there are, but I'm going to go a bit fast right now. So let's have this ambiguation, serverless versus microservices. Excuse me. Microservices is a way to design an application. Serverless is a way to run an application or a part of an application. So it can be hybrid, right? So example of serverless services in the clouds, AWS Lambda, there are Google Cloud Functions, and the other app services and functions from Azure. So I'm just describing the competitors as well, just for us to be familiar for those coming from other cloud cloud services, cloud providers into AWS. So these are the comparable solutions. And then from a container standpoint, we have ECS. And quite recently, Kubernetes, EKS for AWS. We have AKS for Azure, GKE. And there's OpenShift. And recently, there's a new development in the space called Knative. That's very recent. So anyway, this space is very dynamic, very innovative. So you have to watch this space. And of course, AWS is very much active in the space, and it's in the front lines. Fargate, a lot of companies are using that. I talked to a lot of people on interviews, they're using Fargate. So very nice. Okay, so serverless microservices. You get the best of both worlds. So serverless functions are one way to host microservices. All right. By the way, can you have serverless? Why do I make distinctions? Because you can have serverless monoliths. That's possible, right? You can use ECS to host a monolith. That's possible. you can have VM or EC2 based microservices as well. So whereas I'm pitching serverless microservices, which so serverless functions are one way to host microservices. You get the best of both worlds. All right, benefits of serverless versus traditional architecture. Number one is real pay as you go. So traditional architecture has in a traditional architecture, you have to keep all parts of the applications running constantly, which would waste resources. Serverless functions, on the other hand, will allow you to configure certain parts of your applications to run only when they're needed. So behind the scenes, your cloud provider will be spinning up a container or a function whenever there's traffic. But so anyway, for a second. Okay, so there was a time when I joined a big company who was migrating from on-premise to cloud. So I'm telling a story about real pay as you go, right? So once a year, we planned VM utilization. So we're going to procure this much VMs so that there won't be any blockers during the year for the development teams. Then, of course, on demand came. So we migrated to cloud. And of course, because of our mentalities, the cost skyrocketed. So cloud plus manual plus DevOps, I make a distinction, quote unquote DevOps, that mindset is just senseless cost to the company because we do not leverage on infrastructure as code. We just have on-demand infrastructure like AWS, but not the code mindset. And we're not able to leverage on-demand. All right. So what's the other benefit? Simplified deployment and configuration. Serverless also offers the benefit of simplified deployment and configuration. Instead of requiring developers to configure an entire operating system environment, serverless lets them upload the functions they want to run, configure the triggers for them, and call it a day. So this is how devs view serverless. So easy, sweet, and brief, simple, comprehensive. But to ops, this is how we view it. Like it's just disaster. I call it an incarnation of chaos. And you can see how many billion points of failure there are. So if something goes awry, then go figure out where it went wrong. So instead of deploying now, because you're doing it the serverless microservices, almost similar, but I made distinctions, right? So instead of deploying a handful of builds for your monolith, which you would usually do for monoliths, now you've got 100 builds to deploy. So my expectation was right. So anyway, a short story about a startup with 8 microservices, or I exaggerated 8. It's a handful, but not exactly 8, but around that. So my expectation is that so anyway, the startup I knew Ansible, DevOps was kind of new there. I knew Ansible, but I'm not that good. I don't even know roles. So it was very basic. So I have Docker was new. I didn't know it. I have experience in AWS a bit, from hackathons, right? You use a cloud for your hackathons. And then I got hired, DevOps, right? Great. So my expectation was, wow, very simple. Wow, DevOps. It's very new. If you're after resume-driven design, then this is a dreamland. But in reality, everything bottleneck on DevOps. I did everything manually, so it was a bit of a chaos. Now that visualization showing you is not exactly chaos. I mean, That's the normal interaction in a Scrum, right? And you have to test every step of the way. But imagine if I came here without the automation mindset, it's chaos. So it was a conundrum or a vicious cycle, chicken and egg, if you call it. How can I automate if I am swamped with manual work? And at the same time, how can I decrease manual work or manual labor without automation? So anyway, long story short, since my boss is here, I persevered. Well, not really the story, but that's for another time. So after n year of DevOps, what are the learnings of companies? What did I learn? What did a lot of us learn? So according to the fresh grad DevOps engineer, it is impossible to do serverless microservices apart from a maturing DevOps practice. And your OJT quality assurance engineer would say, CI/CD without rigorous test automation is just shipping garbage faster. And your very fresh SecOps engineer would say, functional testing is not the only test that matters. And the Scrum Master would scoff at you and say, DevOps is the concrete implementation of the Agile abstraction. So that's how we understood it. And your manager would say, you have to deliver that by end of day. Yeah, but that's not in Deltec because there's work-life balance in Deltec. Every other Friday is half day for us because they're very considerate about work-life balance. So anyway, so I'm just fooling around. It is impossible to do proper DevOps without much experience, to be honest with you. Well, and this is pragmatism, not elitism. We just want to get real, right? So anyway, spoiler, I'm not presenting a new idea. This remains to be the way of DevOps, and we're going to find out about that illustration later on. But first, let's discuss the 5 DevOps pillars. The philosophy of DevOps is widely accepted to be composed of 5 tenets. All right, so first tenet, reduce organizational silos. CI/CD allows testers to participate in the build process and scan the system for regression using automated tests as soon as the incremental changes reach the integration branch. So you see how QA in some companies, QE in some companies, and developers get to participate. And of course, DevOps will have a hand on the build, right? So they all, collaborate on one point. And number 2 is to accept failure as normal. Failure is normal, and that's a very cheesy line until you convert it to action. So translate it. Regressions are normal, but you have to translate into action, okay? Capturing bugs early on through extensive automated tests should also be the norm. All right, so, in a sprint, right? Let's say you have a 2-week sprint, 3-week sprint. There are absurd groups that has 1-week sprint, but that's good too. Less feedback time for the mature ones. All right, so this is the traditional model. Usually in a sprint, everybody would develop at the start of the sprint, and then at the end, the QE, the QA, the testers, they would all scour in the devs. They would all scour in the test and fix cycles, right? You hate that, right? At the end of the sprint, and then, because all work comes all at the same time. Now, with a shift left model, which a pipeline will enable you to have, or a CI/CD pipeline, for a second. Okay, a shift left model, which a pipeline, a CI/CD pipeline, will enable you to have. You are able to do the testing early on in the sprint. Why? Because it runs in the pipeline, automated, right? Okay, and then, so this is what we actually want. just to visualize it, we want to have the shift left model wherein as soon as the commit is done, we are able to test right away. Versus the traditional quality model wherein the good part is at the end. I mean, the exciting part is always at the end. All right, number 3 tenet is implement gradual change. Small changes are applied to the system in confidence as they are continually validated in the pipeline. Yeah, need not expound. Number 4 is leverage tooling and automation. DevOps need to leverage on tooling and automation. The teams have to leverage on tooling and automation. As Steve Jobs mentioned, I'm not sure if this is real, but somebody said, I think one of the things that really separates us from the high primates is that we're tool builders. If you're not building tools, then that separates you from the good ones. Okay, number 5 tenet is, of course, measure everything. And that's going to be a segue to a lot of topics, SRE topics, ServiceNow, the representatives from ServiceNow, they would pitch to you. Those that advocate auditability, of course, they would. But anyway, that's part and parcel of DevOps. All right, so that's the summary, the 5 DevOps pillar. I put references there. Later, you can view it. You can read the whole blogs. I put several links. Okay, so it culminates to this. The control that we are pitching here of serverless and Microsoft is nothing new. It's just comprehensive CI/CD pipeline. And I have a demo that you can access right now. These are the references I was talking about. So you can check the pipeline there in a GitLab account I created. You can check the code. I'm not going to show it. You can check the runs I did. Excuse me. All right, so it's going to look like this. And there's the code if you want to look at it. The tech stack is the software design. It's a serverless microservice. You can use that. It's done in Python. The framework I use is Fast API instead of Django, so that it's not going to be monolithic. You can use Flask, so it will be a microservice. And for the API, it has built-in Open API v3 documentation. You can access that right away. It's running, of course, in Docker because I'm going to run it on Fargate, or I am running it on Fargate. It's publicly accessible, but guarded by JOTS, and the MongoDB is behind it. All right, that's how the pipeline looks last time. But I had to edit the production deployment to Fargate because of costs. But you can just you can see that my last run is has less stages, and that is how the pipeline runs will look like. As you can see, there are elements of DevSecOps there. There are elements of quality assurance there. DevSecOps parts, you can guess what are these. These are the SaaS, the DAST, secrets detection and everything. The quality assurance aspects there are the unit tests, but that belongs to developers. There's regression test. I put a simple regression test of the API there. So that is a sample of how we all, from different groups and disciplines, can collaborate together in one pipeline. Of course, the dev will be there, taking ownership of the unit test and the code itself. DevOps, of course, we maintain the pipeline and everything, the deployment parts, basically everything. So everything else, I said. Okay, and that's the latter part. It's going to deploy. The sample is going to deploy to a development environment. Why? Because we need a live environment against which the regression test will run. and against which a performance test will run before deploying to Fargate. Okay, the pipeline design is this. We have a build, we have unit tests, we have code quality there. We have, okay, let's describe code quality. It runs static analysis and other code checks. I'm just going to breeze through these. Static application security testing stages there. It runs static analysis on the current code and checks for potential security issues. There's also container scanning. It's vulnerability static analysis for containers to check for potential security issues in Docker images. It also has dependency scanning. It runs analysis on the project's dependencies and checks for potential security issues. I put their license compliance checks as well to search for the project dependencies for their license. It has secret detection. It runs secret detection of the current code and checks for leak secrets. Sorry. And then it deploys to the review environment. And then I run dynamic application security testing, DAS, to analyze the current code and check for potential security issues. It also has API regression testing, and I'm using PyTest for that. It has performance testing. I'm using K6 for that. It's a Node framework. And then I'm deploying to Fargate environment and performance testing, again, using K6. All right, so the performance testing, I just want to elaborate on it. It will look like this. You can click it and see how it looks like. But from the logs, it looks like that. So I think the logic I put there, and you can check from the code, is that if the 90th percentile is below 500 milliseconds, the request response rate, then if it's above, if the 90th percentile is below that rate, then I pass it. Otherwise, I fail it. Now, all right. Okay, so why did I put performance testing in the pipeline? And maybe that's something that I want to emphasize in this talk as well. Remember the story of the frog in boiling water? Because they're cold-blooded animals. They adjust to the temperature of the environment. Now, if you put a frog in a boiling water, it will leap out because it's not able to adjust that quickly. But put it in a lukewarm water and then turn on the stove, and then it will be happy there, and it will adjust and adjust on the boiling water until it's boiled. So likewise, that is the story in performance issues in the software. Usually, as the code grows, as the code base grows, you're not saying, it's also growing slower. And not only in the build time of the application, but also in the runtime. So what are we catching here? Runtime. Okay, so where am I getting the idea? Well, I just I just copied the idea of Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch is a very time crucial software, and therefore they want to see if there are regressions in performance. That is very crucial to them. So in their pipeline, in their daily builds, they will have that. And so see, that is an example of their API testing. Now, you have to bank it against time, over time. What is the performance? So what matters here is that it drops, it slopes downwards, or it maintains a constant linear behavior. So that is what's important. Now, if it spikes, then you've got a problem here. So that should alert your team. All right, demo, which doesn't work, but I took screenshot. Doesn't work because I took it offline, because cost, cost because the Fargate deployment has several elements there, although I did not check really which one is taking cost, but you have to have the, what do you call this? You have the serverless backend, which is on the which you pay on demand, so just whenever it runs. But I'm not sure of the pricing of the load balancer, because you have to load balance the nodes in order to enable HTTPS, and I needed HTTPS. So anyway, I took it offline, but I took screenshots, and you can check the logic for deployment in the source code I gave. I took screenshot. This is how the Open API documentation would look like. So there, okay, I'm done. Let's open the floor for Q&A.
Guys, so if may questions kayo, now is the time to put it in the Q&A section. So you'll find it in the Q&A button in the Zoom Zoom window. So yeah, I think we have a few questions here. I'll just go to the open question. So Sir Carlo, so first question for you is there a distinction between a site reliability engineer and a DevOps engineer nowadays? It seems they require the same skill set.
Good question. It can be the same, but in a lot of companies, they're different. So the SRE, as I can see it, manages the production workloads. The DevOps right now, it evolved into something that manages the development team workloads. So the non-production ones. Now, right now, the pattern that I see is the SRE uses the output, the automation that the DevOps team has created, and uses it to run their workloads for SRE. I also put a link there. I'm not authoritative on the definitions of SRE and DevOps or the lines that separate them. It is Google who spearheaded their distinction. Who popularized the idea of an SRE. The link is there. It's nice. They have different metrics like and internal DevOps team would have different metrics as well. Like for example, what matters to me, the build time. What else? The success and fail rates of the builds. The pull request, the number of pull requests that will come at a given time, that would matter to me. The uptime of the development, the deployment time to the development environments, the seamlessness of development to QE or QA, handovers, right? Because after testing, after development, they would endorse. So that is what I mind about. But SRE will have different things to mind about. So I would say they're different. But the skill sets, I would say they should be the same. An SRE should have automation mindset as well. Although in some companies it might be optional because you're just going to use the output of DevOps teams, but it should not be the case. In the Google blog that I referenced there as well, Google is tracking the toil. They define toil as the manual ops, that you do. So because a lot of us, we script a lot of things, but there are things that we still manually operate. So they want to reduce toil. So anyway, that's SRE discipline in Google. Yeah, I hope I answered the question. Yeah. Jambi, should I read the next one?
Or the next questions.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, sige sir. You can take this one. Yeah.
Sige, para mabilis. Yung sa pinakataas, di ba? Ito, okay. From the get a certification from Deltec. Our team will ask you. Medyo lost ako sa context, but do you have the next question?
Sige sir. So for I'll get the next question. So yung isa is from John Philip, no. So yung question niya is how to be an AWS architect. I'm just a beginner that is willing to study and become an AWS architect. So how to study AWS architecture?
I'm not one either, so I'm not qualified to answer your question. But I leave that to the next, our next friends. Yeah.
Yeah. Yung next is anonymous attendee. So, sir, ano-ano ulit yung mga tools na ginamit mo? So, I think we can...
Oh, pwede mo i-check sa GitLab. We have the... so, I mentioned Python, I mentioned Docker, I mentioned K6 for performance testing. I mentioned Fast API for the framework. I mentioned Open API 3 for the REST API documentation, so on and so forth. And I mentioned GitLab as the CI/CD pipeline for demonstrative purposes.
Thank you, sir. So yung next is from Michael. So what is the difference between DevOps and AWS?
They're different. And AWS?
And AWS.
Okay. So DevOps is it's like a developer, or you're a developer. No, I'm part of DevOps team. Now, some people would argue with me, that's not the definition. There's no such thing as DevOps engineer. There's only developer or ops. So, well, jokes on us, after a few years, people all over are just using DevOps engineer. So I would say it's a valid title, and that's my title right now. Now, AWS is the cloud provider. So DevOps usually would specialize from DevOps is a culture before, right? So yeah. Anyway, and it doesn't mean that you have DevOps engineer, you have DevOps culture. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. Anyway, AWS DevOps as it is right now, DevOps engineers will specialize in several cloud implementations. So it can be AWS, can be Azure, can be Google. So those are the leading cloud services, cloud providers that a DevOps would usually specialize in, depending on what the company uses.
Copy. So yeah, sir, we'll take two to three more questions now. Tapos we'll answer the others na lang via chat now. So I'll just choose the questions. So yeah, yung from Timothy is, what are the essential things you need to consider in a startup that doesn't have a DevOps team yet in terms of building the DevOps culture, etc.?
Oh, okay. So if you're coming to the startup as DevOps or maybe a CTO, you have to establish that first, because otherwise, I'm not sure how you can get out of the conundrum of the vicious cycle of the ops work and automation. So I think early on you have to establish that first. Now, if you're entering and that has no DevOps culture yet, the engineer should spearhead that. Start with the pipeline. It's always the integration point of everybody, and then make that mature over the days. So you have to really push for that. Otherwise, when it's production time, your workflows, your manual workflows won't hold water. Yeah, right. So you have to prioritize that first.
Thank you, sir. So last two questions now. So I think maganda itong question na to. How do you see the future of serverless and containerization? From J. Viczan.
It's just going north. So there's no going down with serverless and containers. As a matter of fact, I have mentioned that, wait, sorry. I mentioned that people are building more innovations around it. Like, for example, my favorite right now is Knative. Like, what is Knative? It's an abstraction on top of Kubernetes. Kubernetes is nice and all, but complicated for me. And now somebody built, Google built an abstraction on top of it so that you get to use Kubernetes like you would use serverless, the usual framework. I think AWS will catch up on that space. But Fargate is nice already, but I think that space will just grow. So go serverless. There's no cheaper solution right now. There is no solution that is highly available out of the box. There's no solution that is as no ops as it is right now. So you want to reduce cost, you want to scale. Once upon a time, we would choose between, am I going to design my application in a scalable manner? Or, some would ridicule, you're not Facebook, you don't have to design it to be scalable like Facebook. Who cares? Like you have the tool serverless gives you scalability right out of the box in microservices. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So last question, so we can proceed with the rest of the program. So yung isa from an anonymous attendee, should the performance testing stage in the CI/CD pipeline be done in an environment that is nearly identical to the production environment?
I would say yes. I would say yes. Or yeah. So it depends what you want to see. If I'm going to run a performance test against a development environment, what I want to see is how the code commit affects the software in general. So that is what I want to see. Somebody who's going to do performance testing against production or a clone of, or a staging would want to see whether the components are, they work together in an efficient way. So it depends on what you see, but that can happen as well.
Thank you, sir. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity then to have you here with us now in the AWS user group meetup. So sir, if you can answer some of the questions then via chat na lang, so we can have the other speakers as well. So
sure.
Yeah, so a short portion lang of this is we'll be drawing a raffle for this part of the program. So let me share my screen. And I thought actually exciting times to. Yun nga sabi ko sa inyo, so register kayo guys. So I hope you registered. So I have a wheel of names here with me. So let me share my screen. Sorry, na-press ko yung record. Stop record. But I think better if we record then. Yeah. Ayoko lang maiwan with me yung file. So, yep. Yeah. All right. So can you, okay. Kita yung screen ko. If one of the panelists can verify.
Yes, Jambi.
Yes.
All right. So yeah, guys. So this is our first draw. So hope you are one of the lucky names of this now. So yeah, let's spin the wheel.
And if you're here, please do message that you're here. Otherwise, we will respin the wheel. Just put it in the chat
Shane,
or raise
Angela,
hand.
Palikpik. If you're here, please chat us with your email address. So maski send to
All you just have to say is you're here now. We have your email address naman. Because of the registration. Yes. Shane, are you here? Shane? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nako, wala daw lahat.
Sorry, Shane. Sorry, Shane. We'll redraw. Excited lahat, no? Uy, ang ganda ng price actually, hoodie talaga. Solid hoodie. So, hope you're here. Dictor Ray 1. Dictor Ray 1, if you're here. You can just, message in the chat, no?
Oh, present daw.
Present daw.
Congratulations. Okay. One more. One more, guys. For this round. So a big thank you to Deltec for sponsoring this, no? Yon. Ace Mark Lilen Tada. Are you here, Ace? Wala. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Remove Acean ka na. Yung mga friends ni Ace, sayang. Okay. Remove all instances kasi mukhang marami atang Ace Mark dito.
Okay, redraw tayo.
Are you here? Bianca?
Okay, wait lang. We're not seeing the screen yet. Who's the name?
Bianca. Denise
right, there go.
Puerto.
Bianca? Oh, Bianca's here. Bianca's here.
Yun. Congrats, Bianca. Kita ba yung screen or nag-break ba yung
kita
screen
na.
ko? Right.
Kita na.
Okay. So yeah, I'll stop sharing, no? So I'll introduce our next speaker for the night. Okay, let me fix it. All right. So our next speaker is the infrastructure engineer for ButeMNL and PayMongo. architected and built multiple production workloads in the AWS cloud, deploying them in ECS and EKS. He has built several dynamic CI/CD solutions to make application deployments easy, consistent, and reliable. So everyone, introducing Life Lofranco. Life, can you share your screen?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, rinig naman Life.
Wait lang, I'll share my screen. Teka lang, sorry, pang hindi ko ma-share yung screen ko.
Diba, meron ka ba nung share screen na button?
Yeah.
Or baka yung permissions sa Zoom?
So let's just give it a while, everyone. No. In the meantime, we are still answering the Q&A. So our speaker is slowly typing in the Q&A so that if you still have questions from previous talk, our speaker is diligently answering the question. Okay, just double checking if Sir Life, if you can retry, or he got disconnected. All right, I think is he still here? Got disconnected. I think that's why.
Disconnect.
Okay, let's just give it a few minutes, no? Just 1 or 2. Maulan kasi today, everyone, no? And so, yeah, a lot of our speakers and attendees, thank you for attending despite the rain and being here with us.
Raffle daw ulit, Sir Rafi.
Raffle muna ulit. Supposed to be at the every end of the speaker. So let's just wait, no? Can we promote? Maybe we can share the opening slides muna. Just to go through again for those who were not able to join yet, or see the mechanics, especially for the what do you call this, live. So currently, aside from the draw live here, we're also doing the if you are doing a Facebook post, please do hashtag and follow Happy at Deltech page. Of course, don't forget to join the user group page also. And then, post your takeaway, or maybe just post your selfie while watching this. And then, post it no later than Monday. It's best you can post it now, even while we are still waiting for our speaker to reconnect. Hopefully, hindi nag-run out.
Resend ko lang yung link sa akin.
So we'll just maximize it.
Maximize
Iba ata yung na-click mo.
Sorry. Sharing pa ba ulit? Ilagay ko to para meron kayong tapos present. Yan.
Right. And of course, those so we have the raffle via Wheel of Names. We also have the social media post game. So just make sure to post something in social media about your experience, about the event and don't forget to hashtag Team Deltech and hashtag AWS User Group Philippines. Make sure your post is public. Right. So just let's double check if our speaker is back.
Connecting na daw, sir. Send ko yung link.
All right. Connecting again. So, seems like, as a third party, for me, I think Deltech is really a happy place. No? As you previously seen in our previous meetups, usually our sponsors will give around 2-3 jackets, but this time Deltec has, being one of the 8 successful years or consecutive years as best place to work or top places to work in the Philippines, 20 jackets agad. No, you can only imagine how generous they are to their employees. And if you are joining them, no, so do check out their openings and their team. Right. So while connecting again, we also have. Don't forget, we do our meetups every month. We also are quite active. If you have questions, like for example, questions like how do I begin on AWS? Questions on what are the difference between the services and these services, you can always post in our Facebook group. A lot of users actually comment and reply and answer you. So it's a very collaborative community. A lot of people will extend to you on how to get started on AWS and the services. And personally, I've known a lot of people who started from zero knowledge into becoming solutions architect in less than 2 years, right? They just really are consistent. They are passionate about AWS. So you can always ask and follow this career, no? And we also like to thank our support from AWS support group, and even Tim is here from an AWS employee support. So they're always happy to help. Again, just check our Facebook group. You can also find it in our website, awsusergroup.philippines. If ever you're lost, that's at AWS User Group Philippines.
Sir, I think better if we have a quiz muna. I think di lang makakonect yung seconds speaker natin.
Right. Okay, so
guys, sino yung speaker? Iba yun, di ba?
Sorry?
Si sir, live. Yeah. Live.
Okay.
Si Live Franco, sir, yung second speaker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Live. All right.
Right. So while waiting, no, hindi siya na-disconnect siya. And it's still quite early for our third speaker who's not yet here. So we'll just do the quiz, or basically a game. So let me then present our game. Close. I'll do the share screen.
Game, sir.
I can. Let me click on present first. I can now share the screen. Okay, just here we go. So while waiting, you should be seeing the let's go to the very first. You should be seeing our game. So please do join our game right now. So this is just a short trivia, short FAQ about containers. And, it's purely true or false. So every question you have a 50-50 chance to get it correctly. Of course, if you know the answer, it's always best to know the answer versus just guessing. Right? So please do join via this QR code or this chat. So currently I can see 40 people joining. 47 at the moment. Okay, 50. Oh, wow. We have 50 already. $60. Okay, so I think it's still rising, no? 67. So let's just give it a few more minutes. 70, 76.
We have 158 participants tonight, Sir Rafi.
Yes, so I'm just seeing if medyo mag-stop na. Medyo, 80 na around. So maybe not everyone's joining, 80. So I think we can, may pataas pa.
Join na kayo.
80. Again, the top 5 are getting a hoodie as well. So if you are not lucky in the Wheel of Names, you have a chance based on your knowledge to win a prize. Okay, so let's begin. I think that's enough time, especially for those who were already here. I'm gonna stop showing the QR code so we can start. Okay. So we're just waiting for the players to join. Put in your names. There we go. We have a lot of names. There's 89 players who have already completed their name. Okay, so let's start the quiz. Okay, so question 1 out of 11. This question has no bonus points. Are you ready? Okay, yes is the correct answer. No, so again, yes is the correct answer. Are you ready? Okay. Yes is the correct answer. Okay. I can see 87 people are already answering. No? So do we have people who will catch up if ever? We have 30 seconds remaining just to catch up. Okay, 23, 22. So I hope you're ready, getting all your, excitement on how to win and at least know more about containers. Okay, I have 89 answers. You get the familiarity of the quizzing platform. So the answer is yes, of course, 100%. Yes. Okay, so the leaderboard, of course, everyone has the same points, no? 100 points for everyone. Right, so just to make sure that we are able to tie whoever the winner here is versus your name in the game. Okay, so we need to get your email address. So please do put your email address so that we can tie your name and your email on so we can contact you on sending the jackets, especially when you win. Okay, not if you win, when you win. Okay, so I hope you are answering that question already. Okay. If you have any issues about putting your email, we'll also try to contact you. Just contact us afterwards as well, especially if you're in the top 5. Okay, so question number 2. Okay, so this is the true question number 1. AWS ECS supports other container platform aside from Docker. So does AWS ECS support other containers? No? So Docker is not the only containerization. Okay, Docker did popularize the containerization, but there's actually a lot more. No, question here is that does ECS support other Docker containerization? Right. So the answer here is false. So ECS only supports Docker. Okay. So currently, no other containerization is supported aside from Docker. Right. So looking at the answers, we have JM as our top leader board. Next, question number 3. Okay. ECS supports long-running application and services. So will ECS support long-running applications and services? So does it time out? Does it have a 10-minute or 15-minute limit? Right. So those are the questions we're trying to answer. No, will ECS or your containers be able to run for hours? Okay, so the answer here is true. containers themselves, you can definitely run them long term. They don't have to have that limit as Lambda has. So you can definitely run them for longer periods of time. Okay, so as our earlier speaker mentioned, we can even have a monolith in containers, right? It doesn't have to be, it's not always, now when you're running containers, it's serverless or short running. Okay, so JM is our strong contender at the moment. Next question. ECS pulls privately Docker images from ECR. Non-ECR passes through the public internet security. So the question here is that we know that Docker images is supported by ECS. It's only Docker images. You can register them in the ECR or Elastic Container Registry. Other registry, like your other services, can they also be done privately? So the answer here is false, because you can privately get your images if you do something like a VPN or you do peering, right? So they don't always have to be a public image. You can still do private images via peering, via VPC. Okay. And not necessarily just on ECR. So our score right now, we have Armand, who is leading our score board. Question number 5. Okay. EKS on AWS Cloud is predetermined with AMI, with Doclet and Kubernetes. Own custom AMIs for EKS workers are not supported. So does this mean that you really need pre-built AMIs by AWS to run EKS or the Elastic Kubernetes service, or are you able to build your own AMIs? Okay, so the answer here is that you can build your own AMIs, right? You just have to make sure that they are the AMIs that you build will have the Docker Kubernetes support. Okay, so you can definitely build your own custom AMIs and not just use the pre-built ones. Okay, so we have changed the scoring. We have now Mark as our top scorer, followed by Ed and then Armand. Okay, so no score. This is just a survey on what topics would you like to discuss in the future. So if ever we get more speakers, what areas should we ask for? So we have IoT, AI, RDS, systems manager. We have a couple of people asking for AI, Kubernetes, Docker. Yes, that's what we're doing now. Machine learning. Okay, a lot of AI and machine learning. That's a common theme that we're seeing at the moment. We have actually a lot. AI, new offering, IoT, analytics, machine learning, SSM, blockchain. Yeah, that's a good topic. So we'll go through this. Unfortunately, I don't think we can talk about Azure in the AWS user group, no? But we can definitely have a joint meetup with Azure if ever, but we cannot do Azure on our own. Right. Next question. Okay. More points again if you answer faster. EKS can be deployed also in on-premise using EKS Anywhere. Can you deploy EKS on your on-premise, meaning on your on your data center, or does EKS have to be deployed on AWS Cloud? So can you deploy EKS anywhere or on-premise? Right, so this is fairly recent. They have announced for 2021 that they will open up EKS Anywhere, so you can now deploy your EKS on-premise, and it will look similarly to being deployed on AWS Cloud. Okay, so that is true. So aside from EKS, ECS anywhere can also be deployed in on-premise already. Okay, let's move to our next question. Our leaderboard at right now, Mark is our top one, followed by RV and Marco, Brian, and Erwell. Okay, don't give up. There's still a lot more questions. Question number 7. Okay. Fargate Containers charges you a minimum on 1 minute per month, regardless if your container runs or not. Okay. Will Fargate, our serverless container deployment, charge you a minimum of 1 minute per month, regardless if your container runs or not? Okay, so that is the question there. 3, 2, 1. Okay, the answer there is false. So Fargate will not charge you 1 minute if it's not running. So if your container never runs, it will not charge you 1 minute. However, if your container runs, there is a minimum of 1 minute charge. So even if your container will run only for 30 seconds, so it is down to the very 1 minute charge. Okay, so that is the 1 minute there. But if it doesn't run, then it doesn't charge it. So that's the serverless way. Only pay when it's running. Okay, so we have Mark, RV, Marco, Seiji, and Erwell. Question number 8. Okay, Fargate supports spot, reserve, and compute savings plan. So this is more about pricing. Will Fargate support spot instances or spot pricing, reserved pricing, and compute savings plan pricing? Okay, so we know that if you're running on your EC2, your RDSs, they can do the following, especially some. Okay, so the answer here is false. So Fargate supports only spot and compute savings plan. It does not support reserve. Okay, so reserve meaning you run it 24/7. And so because Fargate is serverless, it does not make sense to have reservations for that. Okay, so only spot and compute savings plan, no reserve pricing for Fargate. Okay, so that was a little tricky, no? A lot of people got it wrong. Okay, question number 9. You can use Fargate without using ECS or EKS and use Docker scripts natively. So can you use Fargate directly without using ECS or EKS? Maybe you want to deploy directly. You don't like to use ECS or EKS. Is that possible at the moment? Okay, can you use Fargate without using ECS or EKS? Right, so the answer here is false. To use Fargate, you will be using ECS or EKS for your Docker images. And next, our leaderboard. Okay, we have Mark, Lady Gaga, Danielle, Marjun, Arnel. Okay, question number 10. The second to the last. Aside from ECS and EKS, containers can run on other services such as Lambda, Lightsail, Beanstalk, and UpRunner. So if you don't want to use ECS and EKS, can you run your containers on Lambda, Lightsail, Beanstalk, and UpRunner? That is the question we're trying to answer. Okay, time's up. So the answer here is true. You can there's a lot of AWS services that actually support containerization. So you can run containers on Lambda, on Lightsail, Beanstalk, and UpRunner. And actually, there's more. Okay, so the answer there is true. Okay, before we show the leaderboard, we just have a question. Did the Meetup, presently, did you learn anything new? Or did you know already or no comment? All right. Right, so there's 4% who already knew the information, no? Even dun sa mga questions dun sa ating game. Okay. Right, and people have also, there's also a couple who have no comment as well. But majority of us learned something new, so thank you very much. Next question. There's actually, before the last question, we still have Mark, Daniel, Brian, Jat, and Mel. But others can still follow, no? It's a very close points. Right, very close. We never know who's the final winner. And so here's our last question. Oh, it's not yet the last question. It's still a survey overall. How's the event time, platform, and presentation format for our speakers? How are they? Okay, we have very good, fair, and no comment. Okay, so let's just, okay, thank you very much for everyone who gave their feedback. We'll try to improve it. No, I know our internet connection today was not the optimal. Now we had a little breakdowns here and there. We'll try to improve that better. We'll try to ask our speakers to do a tech check run much earlier. And we'll see how we can do like maybe a backup internet or something. All right. And then this is the true last question. Okay, question number 11. Okay, you cannot run Docker Swarm in AWS since the management container services like ECS, EKS do not support it at the moment. So ultimately, the question here is, are you able to run Docker Swarm? Okay, which is another orchestration or management of containers by Docker itself, not going through EKS and ECS. Okay, are you able to use Docker Swarm? Okay, and the answer here is false. Okay, so you can run Docker Swarm. You can, since you can do EC2 and then do it as a virtual machine, you can then definitely install your own fleet and clusters. So you can have Docker Swarm in AWS. In fact, there's CloudFormation templates that help you set up a Docker Swarm in AWS. Right, so let's just see our final score. Congratulations to the following. We have Mark, Daniel, Brian, Jat, and Gabriel. No, you are the top 5, and the top 5 will win the jacket. If ever you are part of the raffle, you can only win once. No, so no 2 jackets at the same time. So only win once. So if ever your name is called in the raffle, TY na lang, and we'll give it to the next. No? So again, Mark, Daniel, Brian, Jat, and Gabriel. Congratulations. Okay, thank you for your time. And now I will stop sharing. So we can resume back to our main group.
Thank you, Sir Rafi. So excited sa mga mag-win na prize. No? So congrats dun sa top 5 natin. So yeah, for our next speaker, we have Life Franco. No? So Life, while we're introducing you, can you double check if you can share screen? Yun, all right. So yeah, I introduced Life already. No? So he's the infrastructure engineer for ButeMNL and Paymongo. He has architected and built multiple production workloads in the AWS cloud, deploying them in ECS and EKS. Building also dynamic CI/CD solutions to make deployments easy, consistent, and reliable. So once again, we have Life Franco. Take it away, Life.
Hi, everyone. Sorry for the technical issues earlier. Anyway, let's proceed with the talk. So for my presentation today, I'll just be talking about ECS and EKS. So it's going to be a presentation about the 2 containerization system that AWS offers. So let's start. Okay. So for the outline for this presentation, I'll give you a containers overview, and then I'll go to ECS and EKS, and then we'll cap it off with a demo about of the 2 systems. Okay. So okay, why do we bother with containers? So why do we even need containers in the first place? So it gives us, well, for me personally, it gives us 4 unique advantages. So it gives you a degree of isolation. So containers, a running container doesn't affect other containers running in the same host. And it's also very lightweight. You can choose to only include the minimum number of dependencies that you need for that your application requires. And it's actually the best practice to make your Docker image as small as possible. And third, it's also very portable. So the Docker image that you run locally can be the same Docker image that you will run in AWS, in Azure, or even in GCP. It doesn't matter where you run it, as long as as long as it runs. And then fourth, it's simplicity. Once you start, running AWS, running Docker containers, you'll tend to appreciate how simple, how everything works. Okay. So this is just a sample Docker file that I will be using for my demo later. So in the first line, you can see that I'm just using a Node.js version 15.5. And then I'm setting my work directory at source/app. And then I'm copying the packages JSON to my working directory. I run npm install, and then I copy the contents of my application to the working directory, and then I expose port 8080. Finally, I just run npm start to run my server. Okay, this nothing complex going on here. So it's just a basic Docker file. Okay, now that we have our Docker file, it's time to build that so that we can have our Docker image. So here, we just issue a command. It's a command called docker build. So you use a Docker file, and then you just type docker build. And once you have that image, you just push that image to a registry. For AWS, it's called the Amazon ECR. And once you type docker push, you have to specify a tag. So a tag just uniquely identifies an image from another. So in my case, I just use the commit hash, the git commit hash, so that I can uniquely identify my images. Okay. So docker build, docker push. Okay. Now that we have our Docker image, right? Once you start running your Docker applications in the cloud, there becomes a problem in how we manage hundreds and thousands of Docker images in AWS or in any other cloud provider. Before containers came in, we used to run our applications on top of EC2 instances, on top of servers. So before, if you have one server, one EC2 instance, you have one instance of your application running. So if you have 5 servers, you have 5 instances of your application running. However, with Docker, it is possible to run multiple Docker containers in a single host. So you can have 1 or 5 containers running on the same host, and it would work perfectly. However, this, as you can imagine, this becomes a bit more complex. Before it's 1-to-1, now it's 1-to-many. A single server can support multiple Docker containers. So for this, we need something to manage this complexity. So this is actually where ECS and EKS comes in. So ECS, as mentioned before, is an AWS proprietary service, and it accomplishes the same thing as Amazon EKS. So it's interesting why AWS offers 2 services that accomplishes the same thing. Personally, I think EKS came in because AWS noticed that Kubernetes was gaining popularity, and they had to support it. Okay. This is just a diagram that I saw online. So this just compares the two. You can see that ECS is not open source; it's AWS proprietary, while EKS, it's open source, and you can actually see the code in GitHub. And the atomic container term is a task definition, and for EKS, it's a pod. We'll discuss more on this later. And for the deployment effort, so ECS, it's easy, and EKS is medium. Although this depends on how used to you are in using Kubernetes or using ECS. Security comes with a service. For EKS, requires add-on software. ENI support, you can just skip that. And for the container limit for ECS up to 120 and EKS up to 750 pods. Although realistically, I don't think you'll ever hit that limit. Although I guess if you're really scaling to the thousands, it's something good to know. And for the system service cost, ECS, you actually only pay for the resources that you use. But in EKS, you pay for the resources plus $75 per cluster per month. So there's an added fee for the cluster itself. And for multi-cloud integration, of course, with Amazon ECS, you can only use it in AWS. And EKS, it's actually very portable. So you can, the deployment manifest that you use in EKS, you can also use it in other cloud providers. Okay. Yes, so this is also a graph that I saw online, and you can see that Kubernetes is leading in terms of adoption on container orchestration. So 69% at Amazon ECS, with only at 20%. And if you see at the fourth, it's Google Container Engine, which is actually Kubernetes. So this adds up even more. So clearly, Kubernetes has won, the hard container orchestration battle. But I don't think, ECS is inferior. Sometimes ECS is more than enough for your needs. So sometimes Kubernetes can be quite complex, and ECS is more than enough. Okay, so let's discuss ECS. So this is how AWS describes ECS in their webpage. It's a fully managed container orchestration service that helps you deploy, manage, and scale containerized applications. It deeply integrates with the rest of AWS platform to provide an easy-to-use solution for running container workloads. So as you can imagine, since it's AWS proprietary, you need to also be familiar with other AWS services. So you have to also configure for example, the load balancer or and figure out the security group for it. So since it's very well connected with the AWS ecosystem. So how does ECS work? So for ECS, you have what we call an ECS cluster, and an ECS cluster runs one or more services. And a service maintains a number of instances of a task definition. It can then be connected to a load balancer that spreads traffic to multiple instances. And a task definition, it's a blueprint of your application. This is where you define your container image, your environment variables, your CPU and memory requirements, and other configurations. So you can clearly see that the task definition is one of the most important aspect of when you're using ECS. So yeah, so you have your service, and then you have a bunch of task definition. So this is a screenshot of a ECS service. So you can clearly see I have my cluster here, ECS demo, and my service name is also named ECS demo. And the service is attached to a target group, so ECS demo TG. Okay. And here is a screenshot of the task definition. So this is where you define your image. So here in my image, I define my container image with the tag ECS. And there's a command, npm start, to run my server. And you can clearly see the port and a bunch of environment variables that my application requires. So this is how it looks like in the AWS console. Okay. Okay, so before we move on, it's actually good to mention about ECS Fargate. So Fargate is actually as mentioned before previous speakers, it's a serverless compute engine for containers that works with both ECS and EKS. I haven't actually personally used EKS Fargate, but I've used ECS Fargate extensively. And in my opinion, if you're planning to use ECS, I strongly recommend that you consider using ECS Fargate instead, rather than ECS EC2. It's much simpler, and to be honest, it just works. The ECS Fargate just works. And as mentioned before, it's the serverless container service that AWS offers. It removes the need to provision and manage the underlying EC2 instances. And it lets you just specify like the amount of CPU and memory. So you just say 1 vCPU, I just need 1 vCPU, and then AWS just gives you 1 vCPU. And you no longer need to think about the underlying EC2 instance. So the main reason why I strongly suggest that you use ECS Fargate, because there's a scheduling thing that goes behind the scenes when you're using ECS, EC2, or even EKS. So here in my example, we have an application A that requires 1 vCPU and 2 gig of memory. And then we have a T3.medium instance with 2 vCPU and 4 gig of memory. So 2 instances of application A running in both servers, right? So this all fits nicely. The CPU and memory all fits nicely, since 2 instances of application A equals to 2 vCPU and 4 gig of memory. However, the reality is much more, complicated than this. So what if we have application A, but we also have application B and application C with different memory requirements? Yeah, so with different memory requirements. Yeah, so here you can see that application B needs 0.5 vCPU and 1 gig of memory, and sorry, my slides. So my application B needs 0.5 vCPU and 1 gig of memory, and application C needs 1 vCPU and 3 gig of memory. What if we need to scale up application A? So what happens then? So if you can see, there's no Amazon EC2 instance that can support one more instance of application A, since in the first server we only have 0.5 vCPU, and then the second server we lack the memory requirements, since we only have 1 gig of memory remaining. However, if you think about it, if we rebalance the Docker containers in our Amazon EC2 instances, it's actually possible to fit them all in our current setup. So yeah, so what if we group application A together in one EC2 instance and application B and C in a separate Amazon EC2 instance? Now it all fits together, right? So the question now becomes, is ECS smart enough to do this? Is ECS, smart enough to rebalance your Docker containers into multiple, to efficiently balance your Docker containers into multiple hosts, to balance the CPU and memory efficiently? And the answer to that question is actually no. So that's the kicker there. There's no smart allocation of ECS resources. It's a GitHub issue that has been open for over 6 years now, and I'm not sure when AWS is going to tackle it. In my experience, when I'm implementing ECS EC2, you often need to have 50% more EC2 instances running than you actually need in order to deploy and manage your application reliably. So yeah, in EKS, this is not a problem. So Kubernetes solved this. Their scheduler has solved this problem. Okay. So this is why I strongly suggest that you move your container workloads to ECS Fargate if it's possible. Okay, so now let's move on to Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is also known as K8. It's an open source system for managing containerized application across multiple hosts. It provides basic mechanisms for deployment, maintenance, and scaling of applications. So as you can imagine, it actually sounds the same thing as Amazon ECS. It's just worded differently. Although with Kubernetes, I think it's a bit important to highlight the reputation that it has. Yeah, so I searched over the internet and I saw this photo. You can see the learning curves of some container orchestration engine, and with Kubernetes, you can see that there's a bunch of people falling off the cliff as they implement features in Kubernetes. And there's also this tweet. One time I tried to explain Kubernetes to someone, then we both didn't understand it. Yeah, so Kubernetes is known to be a bit complex, like a complex beast. Some people call it too complex, and that's why most people don't want to mess with it. But in my opinion, the complexity can be managed as long as you only use the things that you understand. Okay. So for this presentation, for my explanation, I wouldn't go a deep dive on the inner workings of Kubernetes, just a basic overview. Okay, so Kubernetes is created by 3 Google employees back in 2015. Today, Google spawns billions of containers for using Kubernetes. It's a leading production-grade container orchestration with huge community support. So you can imagine that Gmail, Google Drive, and Google itself runs in Kubernetes, and other software tech companies use Kubernetes daily. I think Reddit uses Kubernetes, Slack uses Kubernetes, Udemy, and I think also Twitter. So a lot of leading software companies use Kubernetes daily. Okay, and then EKS. So this is how AWS describes EKS in their webpage. Gives you the flexibility to start, run, and scale Kubernetes application in the AWS cloud or on-premises. Provides highly available and secure clusters and automates key tasks such as patching, node provisioning, and updates. Okay, so essentially, EKS is just a managed Kubernetes service. So if you know Kubernetes, you actually know EKS. It's just Kubernetes with a little bit of AWS flavor injected into it. Someone is raising their hand. Okay. I guess okay lang yun.
Yeah, don't worry about it. If you have a question, guys, you can ask it in the Q&A, no? Or chat it na lang dun sa host and panelists.
Okay, sige. I'll continue. Yeah. So where was I? Okay, so this is how EKS AWS describes EKS. So just a brief overview of Kubernetes. This is a slide that I just got in a Kubernetes introduction slide in Google. So Kubernetes runs applications a cluster and applications equal to pods. So similar to ECS, you can see the similarity. It's also called a cluster. So Kubernetes cluster, and applications is called pods. And a pod can run 1 or more containers. But for this presentation, let's just assume na one container, 1 pod. Okay. And in a cluster, we have what we call a master node, and a master node manages a bunch of worker nodes. Okay. And since the master manages a bunch of worker nodes, you issue commands on the master node, and your pods or your application runs on the worker nodes. Okay. In EKS, you no longer see the master node, so AWS takes care of that for you. That's what you're paying for since you are using a managed service. So you no longer need to make sure that the master node is highly available, that highly available and doesn't go down. So you only see the worker nodes when you're using EKS. And this is some sample deployment YAML manifest. So this is what I'm going to use for my demo. So you can clearly see there's the name of the deployment, right? And then if you go down further in the spec containers YAML, you can see there's an image. So this is the ECR registry, similar to ECS, right? So this is where you specify your ECS image, ECS tag, and I have here a bunch of environment variables. So this is the same environment variables that I use in my ECS task definition, but this is how you write it in EKS. Well, not just in EKS, in Kubernetes in general. Okay, so this is deployment YAML manifest, and this is the service YAML manifest. So similar to ECS, so there's something that we also call as service, as a Kubernetes service. So this is how you expose your application in the outside world. So you can clearly see there's a port, and then there's a target port of 3000. So I bind the port 80 to my target port, which is my Docker containers running, port 3000. Okay. Okay, now that we have our Kubernetes deployment YAML manifest and a service YAML manifest, once I apply those, YAML files, I'll be able to see my pod running. So this is a screenshot of my pod running. So when I issue a command kubectl, which is the command line for Kubernetes, you'll be able to see my app demo pod and my app demo service. Okay, so right now I'll go over and quickly go to a demo of this. I'll be running the same application on ECS and EKS. So I'll be using a slightly different image, but essentially the same, slightly different, but I just changed a few things. So I'm not sure if everyone can see my my code editor. Can someone confirm?
We can only see your slide.
Okay. Wait lang.
Need to, or if you're switching there, you can see it now.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, so there's a bunch of code here. So I'm a Terraform guy, so I usually do everything in Terraform. But yes, I wouldn't explain how I did in Terraform since this is not Terraform talk. But I'll just quickly go over how I built my ECS cluster. So as I mentioned before, even before we start messing with ECS, we have to create the underlying AWS services around it. So we have to, of course, we have to create our VPC. So this is how I created my VPC and also created my Elastic Container Registry. Okay, so you don't need to understand on how the Terraform works. Just how I created my VPC here in ECR. And then after we created our VPC and ECR, we have to create our load balancer. So this is how I created my load balancer. So I just specify the name, my subnets, and my security group. And yeah, so just a port 443, just the basic thing on how you spin up a load balancer in AWS. And once you have your load balancer, you have to create a target group. So you create a target group, which you then connect to the load balancer. After you get your target group, you create the Route 53 alias, right? So you create a Route 50 app alias, which you connect to the load balancer. So this is just a bunch of AWS things that you'll get to be familiarized. You'll get to know when you start using AWS. So load balancer, target group, and then Route 53. And then only then, once you have that up and running, only then you will start messing with ECS. So first, let's build our ECS task. So this is where, as mentioned before, this is where you specify your CPU, memory, and your name task definition, and the app image. So you can see that this is where I specify my app image, and then the tag of the image is I use ECS tag and the CPU and memory requirements. And there's also this container command. So I run npm start to run my server. Yeah. This is also where I specify my environment variables. Okay. So once we have that task definition, let's move on in creating our ECS service. So as mentioned, ECS service connected to the load balancer. And for this demo, I actually chose to deploy it in Fargate Spot to just save a little bit of money for this demo. So I run it in Fargate Spot, and I connected this service to my task definition, and I just set the desired count to 1. So 1 replica of my task definition. Yeah, so yeah, it's connected to the load balancer over here, and the capacity provider is Fargate Spot. Okay. So let's move over to the AWS console. So this is the result once I apply this in Terraform. So this is our ECS cluster, and I have my okay. Sorry, nakikita na ba yung AWS console?
Yep, kita naman.
Okay. So right. So medyo nag-loading lang. Hindi nag-load ngayon yung yeah, so Anyway, hindi nag-load yung aking AWS ECS. Yung AWS console ko. But anyway, may napakita naman sa screenshot kung ano yung itsura nun. Yeah, so if you view my my application, it's actually running at ecsdemo.lifefranco.com. Nakikita na ba yung screen? So this is actually a picture of my dog. So hello world from ECS. So you can so ecsdemo.lifefranco.com. You can see it. This is the result of the ECS Fargate running. Okay, now let's move on to Kubernetes. So in Kubernetes, similarly, we need to have our VPC up and running, and then we just need to have our Kubernetes cluster up and running. So this is just how I created my Kubernetes cluster. Once you have your Kubernetes cluster up and running, you need to have your deployment YAML manifest. So I've shown to you in my presentation earlier. So this is the same thing. So the container image tag, and the environment variables. And this is also the service. So similar to the screenshot that I showed earlier. But in EKS and in Kubernetes in general, I no longer need to create my load balancer in AWS, like in Terraform or in the console. I used here the AWS load balancer controller. So the AWS load balancer controller is the official Helm chart for running the application load balancer inside a Kubernetes cluster. So this is actually managed by AWS themselves. So as you can see, it's a bunch of YAML code. So you don't need to understand what it is. I just copy pasted it in the documentation in their GitHub. So once you run this, it actually spins up the load balancer for you. So you no longer need to do it in Terraform or in the AWS console. I also spinned up the external DNS. So the external DNS automates the creation of the Route 53 alias. So in ECS, I had to create one myself using Terraform, or for you guys is using the AWS console. But in Kubernetes, you can actually automate this and just deploy the external DNS inside your cluster. So there's a lot of things going on in Kubernetes. You can actually survive by just writing YAML files, and you no longer need to go back and spin up one yourself using the AWS console or using Terraform. So so my application is deployed in ecsdemo.lifefranco.com. So this is my picture of my girlfriend's cat. So ecsdemo.lifefranco.com. So this is the result of our running container in Kubernetes in EKS. Sorry, hindi yata na-share, pero yeah. So ito yung basically the result of our container running in EKS. So hello world from EKS is just a simple application. So yeah. Okay. Let's get back to the slides. Yep. Okay.
I think X mo kasi 4% or percent mo ba?
Sorry. Yes. Okay. So conclusion. So when to choose ECS? So learning curve on ECS is definitely lower. You may find ECS easier to adopt as it is deeply integrated with the AWS ecosystem. Prefer ECS if you are new to containers and you want a quick and easy way to deploy your containers application. And prefer ECS for its simplicity. In ECS, there's probably only one way to deploy your application. So there's not a lot of ways to deploy. In Kubernetes, there's a lot of ways on how you can deploy your application. Some people deploy it using GitOps. Some people deploy it using a bunch of other third-party tools. And for ECS, there's usually only one way. And sometimes it's more than enough. So there's no need to look for other solutions. So when to choose EKS? Kubernetes can be more challenging to master, but the possibilities that you can do can be worth it. So definitely, I would say that Kubernetes has a learning curve, but at the end, you can actually do a lot of things with it, and there's a huge community behind it. So there's a lot of third-party programs that you can choose from. Prefer EKS if you have hybrid deployments. Portability between different clouds is essential. As mentioned, ECS is AWS proprietary, so you can only use it in AWS. But Kubernetes, you can use it in whatever cloud provider you want. Third, if you want advanced container orchestration, Kubernetes is the de facto choice. And it's clear, the trends is clear that Kubernetes is leading, but sometimes, ECS is more than enough for your needs. There's no problem just choosing ECS. Sorry. Actually, this ends my presentation. So this is actually my last slide. Maybe we can move over to questions, Q&A.
Yeah, so hi guys. So if you have any questions to live, so we'll take in a few questions, maybe 4 to 5. So you can ask it in the Q&A. So yeah, for the first question of life, from Eric Santos. So his question is, what is the bootstrapping tool being used by EKS?
Bootstrapping tool. In my presentation, I use Terraform, but there's actually a bunch of different ways on how you spin up your Kubernetes cluster. In AWS, they created a command line tool called EKSCTL. So you actually need to Google that, but it's actually the official way on how you bootstrap your Kubernetes cluster in AWS. So EKSCTL, something to look at, but you can also use Terraform or other IEC tools. Yeah, definitely though, do not spin up your Kubernetes cluster by just using the AWS console, because it's a lot more complicated. It's not that user friendly if you just use the AWS console to spin up your Kubernetes cluster.
Yeah, thanks, Live. So the next question, is from Ian Villanueva. So when to consider containerization, and siguro when not to, para as a corollary to that. Yeah.
I'd say containerization makes your application more cost efficient. So before, as I mentioned before, before containers came along, we just run our applications. We just run our application on top of EC2 instances, and one application is one server. So, but in containerization, there's a possibility to run multiple applications in a single host. So that's one thing. And also, if you are in a microservice oriented architecture, definitely you should consider using containerization, since containerization is practically built for a microservice oriented architecture. When not to consider containerization? Actually not sure when you not decide. I guess if there's actually no need, when there's no need to have something that you would seamlessly deploy in multiple cloud environments. Maybe if there's no need, if it's a legacy application, sometimes there's legacy applications that's hard to containerize. It's hard to make a Docker file for it. So maybe there's no actually real benefit to containerize it in the first place. So maybe if you're using a legacy application, no need to bother with Docker, with Docker in general.
Siguro just to add to that, yung mga use case na stateful then, like databases, kasi we often not put it in Dockerized environments.
Yeah.
So yeah. So next naman is when is using Docker over EC2 recommended when is Docker over EC2 recommended over EKS, ECS? From K Alva.
Cost efficient ECS. In EKS, there's a $75 per cluster per month. So, but in ECS, you only pay for the resources that you use. So in that terms, it's much more cost efficient to use ECS. But I guess the cost will vary. The cost will vary depending on your workload. In my opinion, I don't really, look at, I'm choosing ECS since what you really should look at on the underlying technologies. If you're more comfortable in using Kubernetes, then just use EKS. If there's no need for that, just use ECS.
Next slide. Yeah. So next question. Siguro last two, no, because we have a third speaker pa. So, yung next is what is more, I think the answer na was what is more cost efficient, no, for ECS or EKS. So maybe you can just have a quick answer lang on that, no, for JC Jason. What's more efficient now, ECS or EKS?
Which one's in cost efficient ba?
What's more efficient? Cost efficient?
Yung sinabi ko, essentially, yung EKS kasi may $75 per cluster per month na fix. So even though you haven't deployed anything, may bayad na yung EKS. May $75 per cluster per month. With ECS, you actually only pay for the resources that you're going to use. So in that way, you could argue that ECS is more cost efficient. But at the end of the day, if you're a company that is trying to choose between ECS and EKS, yes, cost shouldn't be the number one reason. Since the tech is completely different. Yeah, so I guess it depends on it. Actually, it really depends on your workload.
Copy. So yeah, so last question for tonight, as we can answer all the other questions via chat now so we can make time for the third speaker then. So last question from Peter. Using Alpine Linux as your base image everywhere, is that okay or it depends pa rin sa use case?
Which one? Sorry.
So using Alpine Linux as your base image everywhere, is that okay or depends pa rin sa use case? I think yung unang line sa Docker file ba yung base image that they're using.
Sa Docker file. In my opinion, the Alpine Linux based image is the lightest image. So as much as possible, I've been using the Alpine based image since it's the lightest one, and it's actually the best practice to make your Docker images as light as possible. Since there's a bunch of since it becomes slower, the Docker containers become slower to run if you have 1 gig size of Docker image or 2 gig size of Docker image. So personally, I've been using Alpine Linux, but there have been instances that Alpine Linux has been quite unusable since it's so small. Some software that I need is not available. So in that case, I need to use the slim version of the base image. So it depends on what Docker image are you trying to build, but check first if you can run it in Alpine. Security wise, if the smaller it is, the smaller the security vulnerabilities. So at least you can have that with Alpine, but sometimes there are software that cannot run in the Alpine image. So you have to move over to a bigger image.
Copy. Yeah. Thank you, Life. Thank you, Life, for those questions, for answering these questions then. And thank you for discussing the differences in ECS and EKS and giving us a path on what to choose. I think in the end it depends talaga in your context when you're using ECS and EKS. So thank you very much, Life. So for the next next section of the program, no, we'll have our raffle draw ulit. So yeah, let me share my screen lang. Yep, please stop na yung sharing nyo live. Yep. I have this desktop one.
Thank you.
Thank you live. Thank you so much. I-display ko yung raffle. Yung wheel of names. All right. So guys, so yeah, so let's start the draw. So we have Bianca. I think na-pick na si Bianca, right? Bianca Denise Del Puerto. I do remember meron.
Yes.
So let's pick another one na lang to give chance to others din. Karing Ramos, if you're here, please magparamdam ka sa chat. If you can you can chat. So yeah, 3 seconds.
Karing, are you here?
Karing, are you here?
May nag-congrats pero Karing is not confirming, no? So Karing, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wala si Karing. Sayang, Karing.
Severino Sagum, are you here? Severino.
Severino. The third.
Severino pala. Severino. Kanina nawala. Severino? Wala?
Wala din.
Alright. So counting to 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, wala. Guys, so we'll redraw. Give chance to others. RJ Ramirez, are you here?
RJ Ramirez?
Who's RJ?
Puro congrats lang pero walang ano.
Wala guys, wala.
5, RJ. Kalibitin niyo naman si RJ. RJ, nandiyan ka ba? Wala din.
Sayang hoodie, sir.
Oh, next na daw, next.
Next na. Ako na ng RJ. Okay. Isa pa. Roel, BJ Pico.
Yan, Roel, are you here? Roel Pico?
Oh, dalawa na lang ako na eh. Congrats daw, sabi ni Genlor.
Wala rin.
Wala. Isa pa. Okay, let's pick one more. Actually, 2 more pa rin pala.
Sorry, alam ko medyo late na everyone, no? Pero again, we thank everyone. That's why namimigay tayo ng jacket to thank you for staying here. Royce Agustin. Yan, may triple entry pa si Royce, no? Or, yeah. Ano present? Present si Christian? Christian Royce ba to? Ano full name mo, Christian?
Andiyan si Royce.
Yan si Royce. Royce, nandito si Royce. Okay.
Okay, si Royce.
Okay, congrats Royce. Congrats you. One more.
Note na lang. One more.
And then of course may raffle pa tayo sa end of the very end, no? Yung third speaker natin very short lang naman yung talk niya. Hint, third speaker.
Mark Simeon Cabi.
Cabi won the game earlier, so we have to do another raffle.
Okay. Panalo ka na pala, Mark, kanina.
Doble panalo.
Donate mo na lang daw.
Julius Balingit. Are you here? Julius, wala. Present po.
Present.
Nice.
Raise na yan.
Hindi po siya nag-basketball, yes.
That's 2 guys. All right. So yeah, let me introduce our third speaker. No? So thank you very much for for indulging in this raffle. So we'll also have another raffle after the third speaker. So stay tuned. Stay tuned, guys. So yeah, our next speaker is the Chief Technology Officer of NewWorks Interactive Labs. He's also the AWS Machine Learning Hero and the author of Machine Learning with Amazon SageMaker Cookbook. So I'm proud to introduce Sir Joshua Arvs Lat. Sir Arvs, take it away.
Thank you, Jambi. Rinig niyo ako?
Yes.
Yep. All right. Kita niyo din screen ko?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. So I'll make this quick. Probably 10 to 15 minutes lang. I'll build on top of ang nabutan ko to kasi kanina yung kay Life. So I'll build on top of his talk. He has already shared 50% yung foundational knowledge na we all need. And then yung topic ng talk ko would be a bit of deep dive dun sa basics. Deep dive na pero basics pa rin. Kasi ganun kadaming kailangan malaman for Kubernetes and EKS. And also yung best practices and advice ko for those who will use this in production. So yan, timingan natin yung sarili ko ng 10 to 15 minutes. But you'll learn a lot dun sa next 10 minutes. All right, so to quickly introduce myself, I am Joshua Arvin Lat. People call me Arbs. I am the Chief Technology Officer of NewWorks Interactive Labs. And I'm also an AWS Machine Learning Hero. So kami ni Rafi yung heroes from the Philippines. And definitely, we look forward to people helping us sa ating AWS leadership team. Then maybe in the future, baka yung isa sa mga members natin sa leadership team na nag-handle ng mga AWS user group events to be one of the heroes then. So yeah, the more the merrier. Ang goal natin is to make Philippines super amazing, especially in terms of talent, reputation, and so on. And I'm also the author of Machine Learning with Amazon SageMaker Cookbook. And I'm also one of the subject matter experts na nag-update ng AWS Machine Learning Specialty Exam. So if you look at the screen, yung upper right side, binigyan nila ako ng mug. So isa ako sa mga AWS Certification Subject Matter Expert. So probably kapag nag-certification exam kayo, yung isa sa mga questions na ako nag-provide, baka masagutan niyo. So ito, feel free to check this sa Amazon. Hindi ko siya binibenta. Gusto ko lang ipakita na it's nice writing a book. Yun. So the title of the book is Machine Learning with Amazon SageMaker Cookbook. Recipe type siya and step by step and then may explanation. And also para aware kayo, si Jambi yung isa sa mga technical reviewers. So very critical si Jambi when he was sharing comments about the chapters and the book. So gumanda yung quality kasi medyo harsh yung comments eh. Ako naman nag-adjust kasi okay, I'll just update the chapter with more information para mas maintindihan ng tao. So yeah, feel free to check this out 2 months from now. So enough about myself and about the book. Let's talk about the topic. So na-discuss na to ni Life earlier. I'll add some more details para kompleto yung context. So what's a container? Think of a container as a concept. Wag niyo basta-basta isipin yung Docker. Think of containers as a concept. It's a standardized unit of software that packages code and all of its dependencies so that application can run from one computing environment to another. So yan yung standard definition of it. But what you will probably realize now once you start using containers, there's a shift in mindset. Kasi yung mga tao kasi, oh okay, I can deploy things in an EC2 instance or a server. When you're trying to use containers and introducing containers to manage your work, things become a bit more different because you start grouping things accordingly. And you think about the resources that you will use up when you're using processes. One example of it would, let's say, be web part ng inyong application, and then merong database, and then dito merong queuing. When you are to deploy that within an EC2 instance, you have the option to deploy them inside one server. And then nag-evolve yung architecture in a way na, okay, tigi isang EC2 instance yun. So that was probably 8 to 10 years ago. Tigi isang instance para madaling i-scale yung certain sections. So if you need more resources for the web tier, and then yung database tier nyo hindi gumagalaw, then yung sa web tier, mas maraming instances. What people realized over the past couple of years was maybe we can optimize further kasi yung isang process na sa loob ng isang instance, let's say nag-auto-scale man yung web tier nyo, hindi necessarily magagamit lahat yung sa meron yung kaya ng server. So let's say na 70% or 60% lang ng server na gagamit, sayang naman yung 30% na extra, binabayaran mo din yun. So with containers, you're able to make the most out of what is inside the instances, and you will not really have to worry about the instances unless na we're talking about availability zones na and high availability. So you can say na, okay, I can add 4 containers, one container na iba-iba yung purpose ng bawat isang container sa loob ng isang EC2 instance. Then when I need to scale, I don't need to scale the EC2 instance. I can just multiply one of the containers by 2, especially for the web tier. And then maybe add a load balancer. So ganun, when thinking about containers, there's a change in mindset. And then yung second part dun sa mindset part is containers should be thought of as parang cattle instead of pets. So when a running container is deleted or maybe nag-down siya, instead of trying to fix it, one of the faster ways to resolve a problem would be to just restart the container. And pag na-restart mo yung container, mag-restart lahat yung process sa loob and so on. Kasi we're assuming na it should be working, pero there are times na nagde-degrade yung isang process sa loob ng container, let's say memory bloat or let's say memory leak. Sa halip na i-debug mo siya, try mo siyang i-save, restart mo na lang or magbuhay ka ng bagong container to replace that current container. Yun. So it's a change of mindset in addition to change of tooling. Concepts, services, and tools and related items to discuss, Docker, virtual machines, and container images. There are times na merong argument or minsan may debate. Parang, are virtual machines still relevant? Are containers still parang if you have containers, do you still have virtual machines? We will not talk about that. What I can say is yung virtual machines do offer additional security features na sa containers. By default naman, may security layer naman siya. But you have to take note na may security stuff na meron ka with virtual machines. So enough about containers. So that's a good introduction to containers and changing the way we think about it. So the next one would be, so within a node or within an instance, you have a container. And when you're using Kubernetes, for example, it's critical that we're aware of the terms. So merong pods, may services, merong containers. Please note na we have to be very particular when talking about things because generally by design, some of the things na i-install nyo, one container, one pod. Pero when you're dealing with more complex or actually yung ibang scenarios na hindi nyo alam dalawa pala yung containers dun sa isang pod, you have to take note of that also. So sometimes people go straight, okay, gusto ko gumamit ng Kubernetes para pang paganda ng resume ko. That's not a good idea because what will probably happen there is you will use Kubernetes in production, and if you haven't encountered, let's say, simulation session where you try to destroy your own system and then wait for it to be back because it's self-healing, maybe you're not yet ready. So the first step would be to understand the concepts because that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are having problems using Kubernetes. So agree ako dun sa sinabi ni Life na there's a certain parang medyo steep yung slope when it comes to dun sa learning curve. So when I started learning about Kubernetes mga 4 years ago or 3 years ago, I had a really good understanding of Docker already. Because if you don't have a good understanding of Docker, how can you debug something na Docker level if nagka-problem yung Kubernetes setup nyo? Sometimes kasi wala sa Kubernetes yung problem, nasa Docker pala, nasa Docker container image pala, or nasa Docker container itself. So if you cannot even debug what's wrong with the Docker container, or let's say di ka marunong mag-Docker logs, don't jump to Kubernetes yet. So yan. So again, with Kubernetes, we're able to have some sort of framework which can help you manage containers better. So later, I will show some assumptions that you will need to know before you try migrating something to Kubernetes or EKS or to production. So Kubernetes is an open source container orchestration system. So what we can see here is that there are several concepts that we need to be aware let's say, cluster, deployments, pods, replica sets, services, and secrets. So you have to be very familiar with all of those. So from the name itself naman, malalaman nyo na let's say, yung secrets, pang security, yung deployments, para sa ganito, replica sets, pag gusto nyo, magkaroon ng replicas. We won't go deep into the descriptions here, pero before trying things out, maybe you can try Hello World, pero before trying out an intermediate or advanced level project, make sure you understand yung scope and purpose of each one. All right, so earlier you saw a demo from life. Pero to summarize, one of the best moves to do right now if you were to try out EKS is to use EKS CTL. So EKS CTL yung tawag ko. Some other people may call it EKS control. So same with Cube CTL. Some people call it Cube control. Yan. So kayo na bahala mag-debate doon. Ang mahalaga is marunong kayong gumamit nun. Wait for 10 to 15 minutes. So sa 10 to 15 minutes kasi na yan, what EKS CTL is doing is yung configuration na in-specify nyo when you're running that command line tool. Automatic siya mag-create ng CloudFormation template na nira-run sa CloudFormation. So CloudFormation is just a service that processes your template, parang infrastructure as code, and then converts it to real infrastructure. So yung advantage nun is mas predictable yung lumalabas. And then you use kubectl, like as usual, to manage the Kubernetes resources. So if you have been using Kubernetes for quite some time already, then it's a practical move to use EKS. So kanina kasi 'di ba may question, ECS ba or EKS? If wala pang production setup na medyo complete na, good advice talaga gumamit ng ECS, especially if you're still trying it out. Medyo scary if you try to jump to EKS right away. But one of the more practical things na I would say na useful sa EKS is let's say you're from another platform, tapos naka-Kubernetes kayo dun, mas madaling mag-migrate to EKS than ECS kasi naka-Kubernetes na. Diba? So yun, very minimal changes or probably baka nga wala pa. So yun, so yung advantage of using EKS is if you're using Kubernetes already, then use EKS kasi very minimal configuration changes. So from my end kasi, I'm not really biased towards any sort of tool. You use Terraform if you want to use Terraform. Use ECS and yung or even Docker Swarm or kung anong tool na yan. Ang important dyan is to use the right tool for the job and to be very familiar on what the tools can do. And at the same time, do not experiment at work. Sometimes kasi people want to experiment all sorts of things sa work just to add to their resume. That's not a good idea because if the project fails, yung company niya yung kawawa and kawawa din yung mga teammates niyo. So what's important here is to understand yung concepts used with these tools. So with Kubernetes, there's something called desired state. So with desired state, anong ibig sabihin yan? Meron kang current state and then meron kang desired state. Yung mga configuration files na pinakita ni Life earlier, yun yung desired state. Or at least yun yung nagde-define ng desired state. Meaning, yung configuration na nakalagay doon, yun yung gusto nating configuration na nag-run ng dire-diretso. So if, let's say, 3 pods yung in-specify nyo, tapos for some reason namatay yung isang pod, since dun sa configuration file ni Life nakalagay 3, automatic siyang magiging 3 after 1 minute. So yung advantage nun is, hindi mo na iisipin kung paano siya naging ganun. Iisipin mo lang is, ito yung gusto ko, ganito yung mangyayari. So medyo siya, parang SQL, diba? Parang SQL. Hindi ko kailangan malaman kung paano kinuha from the database yung data. Ilalagay ko lang sa SQL is, gusto ko ng 10 records na ganito yung filter, then I will get that data. So same with desired state, medyo similar yung concept. Ito yung gusto kong number of pods. Ganito yung mangyayari. Ganun yung ginagawa ni Kubernetes for us. So ito yung isang example. So in terms of commands, nakita niyo na naman ito dun sa slides ni Life. But here you can see na, okay, with EKS-CTL, you create a cluster and then you pass the configuration parameters, which may include the YAML files. And then we export yung kubeconfig and then gagana na siya agad. So again, magantay lang kayo ng 10 minutes and then gagana na yung kubectl And to test if it's working, you use kubectl get all and then check nyo lang lahat ng namespaces. So if you haven't used Kubernetes in the past, very important yung namespaces. Kasi for one thing, it would be hard for you to debug things, and also, magiging magulo kung nasa default namespace lang kayo. Namespaces are just groupings. Yan. And then yung mga properties dito, probably ma-overwhelm kayo when it's the first time you've tried it. Pero, ang recommendation ko dyan is to try something and i-copy-paste nyo muna siya from existing configuration online. And then try to tweak it. And then apply lang ulit to see the changes. Another recommendation that I would give is for you to make the instance type smaller. Because if you're still experimenting, it's not advisable to have multiple large instances tapos hindi mo pa malaman kung utilize ba properly yung mga nodes. Also, another thing that you need to worry about when using Kubernetes is labels. So labels are very important. So parang sa relationship, di ba? Labels are important. So same with Kubernetes. Labels are also important. And very important. Bakit? For example, yung mga commands and yung mga techniques na ginagamit sa Kubernetes, yung mga solutions dyan, nagre-revolve talaga yan around labels. So let's say yung load balancer nyo, hinahanap niya yung kapartner or yung mga nakadikit dapat na mga containers or pods, hahanapin niya yan through labels. So if misconfigured yung labels nyo dito, tapos for some reason, hindi nag-uusap yung mga resources nyo sa Kubernetes na cluster, check the labels. Yan. So again, labels are very important. So yun. So when you're working with these types of configuration files, ang advantage nito is pag may configuration file na kayo, the thing that you'll type would just be kubectl apply and then the configuration file. So here, infrastructure as code is working kasi if you were to check paano ba naka-configure yung cluster ko or yung mga resources dyan, I would check the configuration files. Yeah. So here is one example of how it may look like. Of course, change it to how you want it to look like. So here, you can design it na, okay, yung dalawang pods naka-distribute properly with the different nodes so that if mamatay itong isang instance na to or computer, pwedeng mag-jump sa ibang computers yung mga pods as long as meron pang available na memory or space or yung resources. So again, if you think about, okay, is Kubernetes scalable, etc., of course, it is limited by the house or by the environment, yung instances. So feel free to check out yung Kubernetes and EKS na cluster autoscaler. Kasi pwede mo siya ma-configure to automatically scale yung cluster using the AWS na mga auto-scaling stuff. Yeah. So, yan. And then, yung load balancer na to, it's just a service. And automatic sa EKS, yung, kunyari, meron kang service na de-define dun sa YAML file. When you run kubectl apply, as long as tama yung mga labels, magko-connect yung service properly with the different containers sa loob ng pods. So, yan. So, we're close to the end of the talk. So, what can we say are the most important parts when you're using Kubernetes? The most important part would be debugging and troubleshooting. A lot of the examples online and even books will teach you the concepts. Pero the hard thing kasi with Kubernetes, kaya maraming tao yung nahihirapan dito, is hindi sila nagda-dry run ng debugging and troubleshooting. From my end kasi, one of the ways for me to test if I really know something is, after I build something, I destroy it. And then I try to fix it back. So for example, you have an nginx server doon sa isang container, tapos nakakabit siya dito. Ang gagawin ko is guguluhin ko yung configuration or sisirain ko yung magde-deploy ako ng isang container na may sira, tapos gusto ko mapagkabit ulit yung system. I need to know the commands ahead of time on how to troubleshoot and debug the setup. Kasi you have to identify, okay, may problem ba sa network? May problem ba dun sa container? Okay, let's try kubectl describe. Or let's try kubectl logs. Okay, meron palang 3 containers sa loob ng pod. How do I know that? So make sure na alam nyo na yung mga troubleshooting steps before you even try to use Kubernetes in production. Kasi when there's something wrong with your production setup, hindi pwedeng nagre-research dyan on the fly. Hindi pwedeng, okay, I'm a very talented person, kailangan ready before use Kubernetes in production. Otherwise, sana din na lang kayo nag-Kubernetes kung hindi kayo ready. So yun, sana. So what's next? So a lot of the talks and resources online would help you get started with Kubernetes. After you have, let's say, tried it out, it's important to know what's next. And also, if you have been using Kubernetes in the past, it's better to try them out in EKS also. So for example, yung Istio, yung Rancher, yung Helm, yung security configuration, so sasabihin nila, secure na yan, di na yan kailangang alalahanin. Hacker ka ba? Hindi naman, di ba? Na-try mo na ba mag-penetration testing? Na-try mo na bang ma-check kung yung mga configuration ng YAML files mo is secure? There's a chance na, ito palang ginagamit natin na pang debug na container. Pwede palang kumabit dun sa node. So, pwedeng gamitin yun to attack the entire environment. So, you always need to allocate time to double check yung security configuration. And there are a lot of tools out there naman na nag-analyze naman ng mga files and ng setup. So, hindi niya naman kailangan maging hacker or experienced penetration tester to get started. Meron namang mga tools to at least help you check the security configuration. Also, check cluster autoscaler. So, ang recommendation ko dito is before you deploy something into production, kailangan yung cluster autoscaler na simulate nyo na or na test, one, with a basic application, and next, with an application na yung kapareho na ng application nyo. Kasi syempre, kailangan nyo i-load test yan. Nag-i-scale ba? Hindi naman pwedeng sabihin na, nag-auto-scale yan, nasan yung proof? And then also, logging and monitoring. You will encounter parts na, kunyari, 2 months na nag-run yung cluster nyo, tapos yung mga containers nag-restart na, paano na yung logs ng containers na nawala na before? So, saan siya mapupunta? So, I won't answer all of this here. You can check out Prometheus and other na mga tools. Makakatulong din kapag meron kayong UI. So, some people are very proud na meron silang sobrang galing na hands-on skills when it comes to bash scripting or terminal usage. Let's say, EKS-CTL, sobrang bilis mag-type. Autocomplete. When using something in production, when you're using this in production, ang recommendation ko is to use Rancher or alternatives. So, meron din naman Kubernetes dashboard and so on. Ang important kasi dyan is mabilis yung malalaman kung nasaan yung problem with a UI. So in the past, kagana sa inyo yung terminal tapos lalabas naman yung mga pods. Pero kapag nagpapabilisan na and kailangan mo ma-solve yung isang problem, hindi pwedeng kinakapa yung command line and mag-research ka kapag nandun yung problem. Mas maganda kapag may UI, tapos click na lang. So yun yung mga veteran tips na I would recommend when somebody is using Kubernetes in production. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, it's going to be a very quick talk, pero I would say na you probably learned something, especially mga best practices and mga veteran moves when using Kubernetes in production. So that's it. Thank you again and entertaining probably 2 or 3 questions. Yeah, back to Jambi.
Thank you, Sir Arvs. Thank you, Sir Arvs, for the quick deep dive on EKS and Kubernetes. No? So guys, if you have any questions, ask it in the Q&A. So this is an opportunity for you to ask them yung questions nyo. If you want to ask Sir Arvs or any of our speakers, just ask it sa Q&A.
Magandang question dito. Saan ko daw nabili yung mic? Ayan. Okay, so itong mic na to, RGB mic siya. So pag sinearch nyo siya, lalabas naman siya agad. Search nyo na sa Google, RGB mic. I bought it for the quality, not for the light. So nakakatuwa kasi dyan every time I have a talk or something. It's the first thing they notice. Yeah, so try it out. Maganda yung quality. Tapos i-combo nyo siya sa crisp na nagtatanggal ng noise. So yeah.
Alright, guys. Okay, so yeah. Any questions, guys? Medyo late na rin. Pero yeah, if you have any questions, guys, you just leave it in the Q&A, no? And or leave it sa chat din. Ayun, meron pala dito sa si Julius na question.
What if 0% knowledge and experience yung developer sa Docker pero kailangan gumawa ng microservices architecture from a monolithic one? Would you advise to this kind of setup? The first technique dyan is to handle it. So I'll repeat the question. What if 0% knowledge and experience yung developer sa Docker pero kailangan gumawa ng microservices na architecture from a monolithic one? Would you advise to this kind of setup? Okay, this is practical advice based from experience. Hindi ito yung makukuha yung advice from other people. So feel free to react. Kasi probably yung iba sa inyo may bias towards certain techniques. From my end, I will share yung gumagana from my end kasi nandun ako sa isang role na cost will always be a factor. Trying to solve things, check the constraints first, not just from a technical point of view. It has to make business sense. So una, sino magbabayad? Is it your company or the client? Also, there's a budget. And also, critical ba yung evolvability, which is a non-functional requirement when dealing with projects and architectures. That said, may sense ba na gawing multiple parts yung application nyo? Kasi sometimes if the website will no longer evolve into something bigger, there's no need to change it. Why change something which is already working? So no code is better than, or no changes is better than having changes from a financial point of view. From a technical point of view, magagalit kayo, oh, bakit di yan microservices? Paano kung wala namang gagamit? O paano naman kung wala naman magbabayad for it? What if there's another project na mas malaking kikitain? Yun yung una. So yun yung case 1. So yun yung default nyo. Check nyo muna kung practical. And then if it's practical, magma-microservices architecture kayo. One advantages of microservices architecture is if you're building, let's say, one example would be if you're building a product and then you're pretty sure that some parts of that architecture will scale. So let's say na before monolithic, ang problem kapag monolithic is kapag i-scale mo siya, kunyari yung kamay ko yung isang buong application. Kapag i-scale ko siya, syempre copy-paste for each instance yun kasi yung buong thing yung i-copy mo eh. Ganun siya mag-i-scale. So kahit na hindi dapat mag-i-scale yung isang part ng application mo, mag-i-scale lahat. So kung magkadikit yung web mo and yung application side na tier, and kahit na yung application side na tier yung kailangan mo lang i-scale, lahat yun mag-i-scale together. So doon may sense yung microservices architecture kasi let's say yung front end mo, let's say React or Angular or anong ginagamit ko na isa? Vue.js, di ba? Or other frameworks. Pwedeng yun yung isang part ng tier. Tapos since let's say 80% read, 20% write, pwede nyong gawin is sobrang dami nung front-end tier. And then dun sa application tier na probably mas mahal yung resources na gagamitin nyo, tatlo yung web tier or API for that. So doon may sense kasi may cost savings when trying to use the microservices architecture. So ganun yung it's not even about Docker. It's about the architecture itself. And then yung Docker, ginagamit yan to help support yung orchestration and yung pag-manage ng resources nyo doon sa overall microservices architecture. So for example, ayaw nyo nang alalahanin yung, kunyari, namatay yung isang web server. Ang advantage ng container is madedetect niya na, namatay yung service. Ano ba yun? Bubuhayin ko pa ba yun manually? Isa sa mga practical ways of using containers and Kubernetes and the other tools is self-healing automation. We are not supposed to use technology for the sake of using technology. We use technology to make our lives easier. So yun. So yun. Hopefully I was able to answer your question. Ginawa kong complete kasi very important yung buong context. Kasi once you have a framework, magiging mas valuable tayo sa ating mga companies na pinagtatrabahuhan.
Thank you, sir. So one last question, for our from our audience. So si Unang Val asked, do you have tools to destroy your created container to test the reliability of your containerized environment? Yes. Thank you for that. Good question. So meron tinatawag na chaos engineering. Syempre may mga tools for it, di ba? So again, if you want to be really good in infrastructure, in order to create, you have to destroy. I mean, yun sabi nila, di ba? In order to know if something is stable, you have to test it. Hindi siya sa kunyari, security, di ba? Paano malaman kung secure yung system mo? Penetration testing talaga yan, di ba? Offensive security. You will know if it's secure if it's tested. So same as with this one, anong tools yung gagamitin nyo? Pwede nyo gamitin yung mga basic na mga Docker commands or tools. Ang ginagamit ko is yung sa Rancher, kiklik mo lang, delete. Tapos pag nabuhay siya ulit, kunyari may active MQ. Tapos, syempre gusto mong malaman kung may failover, kung gumagana yung setup sa failover. So yung isa gumagalaw, tapos yung isa waiting for it to work. So in order for me to know if gumagana yung high availability setup, dun sa Rancher, i-click mo lang, tapos pag na-delete siya, antay ka ng a few seconds, nabuhay yung isa na yung bagong primary. So yeah, you can use yung Kubernetes
na mga tools, or you can use Rancher or other tools. It's the concept. Yung concept yung mas important. Yung tooling naman is as long as you know how to, let's say, bombard something. Yeah, bombard something with your tool. So pwede ka naman gumamit ng ibang tools with that. So yung load testing, for example, pwede mo din gawin yung EC2 instance mo sa kunyari, Kubernetes, EKS, and EC2. Delete mo yung isang EC2 instance, check what will happen. Kasi minsan sa AWS, nagde-degrade. Very small chance, pero baka mag-degrade yung isang yung EC2 instance. Delete nyo, tapos, or i-bombard nyo ng something, tapos pag nasira, nagsa-self-heal ba yung system? The concept is more important than the tool. Pero good question overall.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sir Arv. So that's the questions now we're going to accommodate muna for tonight. So yeah, thank you, Sir Arv. Thank you very much for sharing the time and sharing the insights as well. So
thank
you. Thank you. So our next portion, so just briefly go through the deck. So mga last few reminders, pinakahuli yung raffle. So stay tuned, guys. So last 5 to 10 minutes na lang naman. So I know it's medyo late na rin. So let me share my screen. So thank you again, Sir Arvs, for the talk. Continue, and then Google Chrome. All right, can you see my screen in Google Chrome?
Yes.
Right, share to like present. All right. So yeah, monthly meetup number 7, July 22. So again,
we're still seeing the not full view.
Not full view pa din. Kita, sir? Or hindi?
Hindi pa rin full view.
Sige. I think better if i-share ko na lang buong screen ko. Buong desktop 1 kasi may sync issues. Better, sir?
All right. Yeah, we can see the Deltec and the monthly meetup. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So yeah, guys, so if hindi kayo manalo sa raffle, there's still many chances. So follow Happy at Deltec Facebook page, tapos join, syempre, the user group, and then post your takeaways from the virtual meetup no later than Monday, July 26. And don't forget the hashtag Team Deltec and hashtag AWSUG.PH, and then we'll draw 4 raffle winners to win the Member Gillian hoodie jacket. And then also scan the QR code, guys, and give us feedback from the event, so that will help us improve then, and magkaka-chance din kayo to win the hoodie. So yeah, so meron tayong General Assembly, Sir Rafi, if you can tell us more about this then.
Yes, so again, another call for leaders and volunteers, specifically for the AWS user group for women. This will be on July 28th, 7 p.m.
Thank you.
The ladies out there, please join. Let's also create and make the user group for women as active as the main group.
Thank you, sir. So we'll post more details on this, so yung exact time, the link, so you can join. One can join them. Yeah. So yeah, just another quick run through of this. So if you're interested in contributing more to the community, you can start by writing a short article on something that you want to share, something that can help you gain confidence then, and eventually you can volunteer, volunteer as a speaker. So one of our speakers last 2 months ago started by contributing sa AWS Community ASEAN. So maybe that's a route that you can take as well. And then we're inviting you to have to go to the Tech Talks #1, Cloud Tech for Startups, on July 23, so where Sir Rafi will be featured as a speaker for the DevCon Global Chapter. So yeah, visit yung link na lang sa baba, and we'll also share that dun sa Facebook page, sa Facebook group natin, sa AWS user group. And again, if you want to learn more about AWS, you wanna have your first AWS certification, or maybe your second. So yeah, reserve na kayo ng slots, guys. Limited lang yung slots. So it's a series of 7 weeks for 3 to 4 hours. And then yun din, meron din free certifications if you pass yung certain criteria. So check it out lang din sa Facebook group, so you'll be able to see it as a post. And of course, syempre yung AWS certified swags natin. If you wanna have a gift sa mga techie friends nyo, then this is a great place to purchase swag. So yeah, so store.awsug.ph. And then finally, for our exciting, also we have a session with Python Philippines, and then syempre sa AWS user group we will be holding a talk. So yeah, keep watch for that. No? So we'll be posting more details as the days goes by. So yeah, again, we'd like to thank si Deltec as our sponsor. So ito na, we have our final round of raffle. No? So lang our spin of wheel of names. So yun. All right.
Thank you again, Deltec. Very generous sponsor / generous employer.
Solid Deltec. Okay, sige, let's spin the wheel, guys. So hopefully nandito kayo, guys. So pag nandito kayo, you can show proof nandito kayo, you can chat us, then we'll be able to grant you yung hoodie. Kenneth Mark Rodriguez, you here? Kenneth Mark? Natin sa chat, ha? Dito ba siya?
Here, Kenneth is here. Congrats, Kenneth.
Congrats, Kenneth. All right, one more, guys.
And last for the raffle, again, we can still also join using the event survey and also the social media raffle.
Benedict Eusebio, are you here? Benedict?
Present din.
Yun. 2 for 2 consecutive. So yun. So congrats to the winners, no? So yeah, sabi ni Sir Rafi, you still have opportunities to win, no? So just go to our survey, no, post-event survey, answer that, and we'll pick winners from there. And also, if you want, you can post yung takeaway nyo from this talk, and maybe a screenshot if you want. So you can post that, then just tag us, and make sure to follow yung Deltec Happy at Deltec na page, no? So we'll be able to post that as well. So you have until July 26 for that. So yeah, I'll turn over to Sir Rafi, no, for any final remarks.
Right. Again, thank you everyone for always attending and always supporting the AWS user group as well. We meet every month. We have our study group also. So I did see some questions about study group and also free certification. Just please do check the Facebook announcement or just check our website at www.awsug.ph. Thank you, everyone, and good night.
Thank you, everyone. So thank you rin, Deltec, for sponsoring the prizes, and of course, the leaders and the volunteers of AWS User Group for organizing and making this possible, and also all the speakers who've dedicated time and effort to share their expertise and knowledge. Thank you very much, and magandang gabi.
Right. And then can you just quickly show the ending slides again? Ano yung email ni Deltec? Or nasa front slides ba yun? Was it careers Makati ba yun?
I think nasa front slide.
Nasa front slide pala. If you can just quickly show it lang. So again, to anyone who was asking about contacting Deltec, it is Makati Careers, okay? Makati Careers at deltec.com. Yung link ng evaluation, can we also just copy-paste daw the link sa evaluation here? Nandyan lang din yan.
It is the miracle sa meron na rin.
Right. So sa chat na rin yung evaluation of the event today. And there's also a QR as well. And if ever my friends and family kayo na gusto pang sumali, no, of course, we'll be uploading this recording tonight. So if gusto nila manood, nasa YouTube to, yeah, we'll post the link again. Just check out the aws.ug.ph or the Facebook group or the meetup.com. You can get the link or just go to our unofficial/official channel at Young CTO in YouTube.
Thank you to Miracle and Reina from Deltec.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, committee members, Rafi, Jumpy, Chard, Light, and Arvin. Thank you so much. We're excited for the next event.
Thank you, everyone, and see you around. See you next month, especially for our meetup next month with Python.
Daming member requests kanina sa Facebook group.
Great, no?
Expanding. Basta kayo guys, maulan dyan.
Yes. Dinner time na.
Dinner time.
Mga hindi naka-dinner, dinner time na.
Successful event.
Share ng takeaway dyan. Ano yung takeaway? Dapat ang relationship may label.
Gusto ko
Okay
sana
nang i-share.
Gusto ko sana ito suotin, medium lang to eh. Hindi kasha. And sana magka-physical events na ta para mabigay ko na tong mga t-shirt na nandito, no? Dapat pa minor din pala ako. Hey, I have items here. 'Di ba may ano
live? Yung mga live sa Facebook.
Ayun, minor. Just yung parang shipping covered by minor, 'di ba? Mga ganun. Try nga natin yan one time.
Maganon kayo.
Oo.
Ganyan.
May question dito. Rafi, may question. Yung winners, paano makiklaim daw yung prizes?
Yes, yung sa winners, para maklaim yung prizes, mag-send ng email si Deltec. So since we have your email, dahil nag-sign up kayo and then sa games din, naglagay kayo ng email nyo doon, we will contact you and then it will be shipped by Deltec directly to you. I think they will just need to contact you sa caller. Is Miracle still here?
Yes, we will send an email probably. Can you just give us until Monday of next week? We'll send an email on how you could claim your prize.
All right, there you go, everyone. And then to our teams, thank you again, Jambi, Chard, and Arbs. Always the leadership team sa meetups. Of course, we also have some volunteers and leadership teams sa study group. Let's not forget pala to draw the two winners from the certified, recently certified as well.
Sige. Actually, pwede na.
Gawin na natin now.
Perhaps we can do it now.
Clear mo na yung names.
Masenda na natin sila.
Right, clear mo na names and then we'll contact them. No? Copy-paste mo na yung names.
Tekta na. Let's go.
Even if wala sila dito, they're still eligible, no?
Yep.
Di ba si Jaira naging certified din?
Oh yes, oo, sama ba daw doon si Jaira? Hindi siya na-announce.
Ba alam ni Jambi yung last name
This speaker kasi siya.
Okay.
Okay.
Doon naman pala Jaira E. Lakad doon. Sinasabi mo wala?
Ako naglagay.
Ikaw naglagay. Okay.
Naglagay.
Di talaga pinalampas ni ano.
I think yun lang, no? Si Romeo na yung last. Tama. Romeo. Alright. Spin the wheel.
Mas mataas yung chance manalo kasi kakaunti, no?
Oo, siyempre.
At wala, nagpa-certify ako this month.
Kahit Cloud Proc, wala pa akong Cloud Proc eh. So,
Angelica May. Alcantara. Screenshot.
Ano yung prize ni ano? Yan.
Hoodie sila.
Pwede na.
Kahit wala sila dito. Sure.
Right. And then,
Romeo.
Ito, may question dito sa audience. Ma'am, sirs, may item ba for the most number of insights, friends outside Deltec? Parang maraming +1 to si John.
It's honored. We'll reach out to you. If you were able to refer someone and at the same time they attended this event, meron, yes. Pero kapag hindi mo sila na-refer, pero umattend sila, let us know kung sino-sino.
Wala ba ako sa self-certified? Pero certified.
Anong class? Yun ang ibig sabihin ng self-certified. Yeah, as long as certified ka, pwede sana. As long as we know, no? You placed it in the user group or nagpa-alam namin kasi we wouldn't know unless you tell us.
Basta AWS certified. Oo.
Sige, magkuha tayo, sir, back up.
Sino second?
Yung second, kalimutan ko yung second. Pero wait yan ako, sir. Ipakita ko. May ibang screenshot na mabas. Romeo Nerida.
Okay, back up daw.
Backup. Dalawang
Kasi
backup
baka si Harris daw. Oh.
Yun nga. Paglaban natin si Jaira. Ay, Harry, sayang. Marvin Gregorio, number 3.
If ever lang, no? If hindi makontak yung dalawa. Si
And then
Marvin.
one more, tingnan natin.
One more pa talaga. Oh. Sige, back up lang. Bigyan na lang natin ng yung mga backup ng credits, AWS credits.
AWS credits. Alright.
Wala talaga, Harris. Hindi talaga kaya.
Ano ko yung sa book, hindi ko sure kung makapagbigay ako ng free. Kasi yung publisher yung nagba-manage kasi nun Sorry. Pero yung isa kong kakilala, iba-blog daw kasi niya yung book. So, binigyan siya ng free copy for reviewing. So kayo, kung i-review niyo yung book, pwede kong ibigay yung pangalan niyo dun sa publisher. Tapos baka magkaroon kayo ng free copy.
Solid. So yun guys, i-plug ko na AWS Community Blog, diba? 2 words. So,
Oo nga, no?
Combo. Review yung book ni Sir Arvs, tapos blog niya siya sa AWS Community ASEAN. Solid, di ba? Mas madami ring reach. May free book pa kayo. And may free AWS credits, di ba? Solid. Kumita pa kayo, magsalat pa. Yung portfolio.
Right. And magpa-certify din kayo guys as soon as possible kasi for sure, pag pwede nang mag-meet up ulit, for sure grande yung meetup na yan.
Ay, grabe. Oo nga.
Diba?
Sana sir, within this year, may certified dinner ulit. Panalo certified dinner, AWS.
Baka hindi lang dinner yun, certified resort, no? Mga kamalay mo. Basta allowed
out of
na,
the
no?
country.
Basta
certified on the beach.
All right, thank you everyone.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
And of course, yung pagiging certified, practicing that, yun yung biggest reward, no? Bonus na lang yung hoodie. Yung experience of practicing the certified, yun yung and the opportunities it brings.
Grabe, nga. Maraming na-unlock sir na opportunities ang AWS certification. And first-hand experience.
Rafi, may question dito. I'm currently preparing for AWS Developer Associate. Pwede po bang manghingi ng reading materials?
Ako personally, ano bang ginamit ko? Ginamit ko ay ano bang ginamit ko? Hindi ko maalala na kasi matagal-tagal na rin, no? Pero I think ang ginamit ko ay white papers lang din. Mostly white papers.
Saka nag-architect associate ka muna, no? Bago ka nag-develop.
Oo. Actually, last yung developer ko. Nag-sysops nga muna ako bago mag-developer.
Yes. Ang recommendation ko kay Harris from my end is when I took yung AWS Solutions Architect na associate na exam, nung time na yun kasi kakaunti pa yung resources online. So ang ginawa ko, yung sinabi nga ni Rafi, yung white papers, that's number 1. Yung AWS documentation for the primary services. So for developer, I'm under the assumption na mga code pipeline yan or hindi ko sure. Nagbago na kasi yung exam Ang kailangan mo ng experience dyan would be hands-on experience. So yung quick labs, tignan nyo. Kasi sa quick labs, kapag sobrang familiar ka na dun sa click and yung mga configuration, magkaka-idea ka na on the purpose of the different services. And then yung sinabi ni Rafi na white papers, makakatulong yan sa pag-intindi nyo dun sa roles, sa architectures, and so on. And also yung sa monthly na free training na pinaprovide ni Rafi. Mag-attend kayo doon kasi 60% naman ng content ng associate exams parang magkakapareho naman Tapos yung 40% nag-iiba na siya based on the role. So yung tatlong associate, yung knowledge doon, yung base knowledge, makukuha niyo doon sa ilang days yung Rafi yung session mo?
SAA 4 days.
4 days. Diba? So yung libre yun guys. And from the expert itself pa yung nagsasalita. Diba?
If madaming mag-volunteer mag-teach ng SAA, and gawa tayo ng bagong course na free din. Soon as paging stable na yung tutors ng SAA.
yung ano rin guys, tutorials dojo made by a Filipino, diba? Si John Bonso and Filipino team din yon. So I think that's a material na I think this year and last year gained prominence, so that you can check that out. And a lot of people na nagpo-post sa LinkedIn that really helped them, so you can check it out.
Right. All right, thank you everyone. Again, pakainin niyo naman ako. Close na tayo.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you everyone. We'll just reach out to you
Thanks everyone.
panelists. Thanks everyone for attending. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Life.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Guys.